This is RPD Officer Leon Kennedy, and you're listening to the Let's Talk Resident Evil podcast.
What is going on, everyone?
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
Welcome back to another episode of the Let's Talk Resident Evil podcast, and this is the Resident Evil 9 review show. John, we're here.
Yes, we are.
Been a crazy ride.
Indeed it has.
And we are talking about spoilers in this. We're talking about story. We're talking about gameplay, visuals, everything in this show. This is going to be a long show, so fair warning, it's going to be a few hours long, more than a few hours probably, so you know, this is the one that everyone's been waiting for. We played it for the past few weeks, and the build up to this with the Legacy series and everything and all the other videos we've been doing, it's been a very hectic 3-4 months back to back to back of just nonstop prepping and recording and releasing and trying to cover RE9, and we've kind of made it to this podcast. Our coverage of RE9 isn't necessarily done after this show, but this is kind of more of a definitive review than just our quick review that we pulled right when we were done the game initially. So we have a lot more stuff about RE9 and videos that we want to do about the lore that's going to follow this podcast. But we took time to play it on our own, on our own respective consoles. And, you know, obviously our first playthrough is out there for you guys to watch. And our Insanity playthrough live is out there for you to watch that we did for the 24-hour stream. Really felt like almost 30 hours with the setup and driving and all that stuff, so it was a pretty long stream.
Yeah.
How did you feel personally about the release week? Because we kind of had mixed emotions going into getting the game, not about the game itself, but how like everything was handled for content creators. That whole week was a little stressful, to say the least, right?
Yeah, so I would say that we were definitely bummed out about the fact that we only got the game Wednesday night.
And at like 3 a.m.
At like 3 a.m. And our first playthrough, we won't do this again. We know for next time to sleep first. But we were very tired during that first playthrough. So some of our reactions and thoughts were definitely muted. We know for next time to sleep and just it's cut our losses, basically. So originally our plan, just to be fully transparent, was we were hoping to get the game Monday and be able to sleep, record our first playthrough, then start immediately producing the review and the videos,
right?
So that you guys had content basically since the game came out all through this week that you're watching this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, unlike some other people who get the game weeks ahead of time or a week ahead of time, Capcom creators typically only dishes out codes for us sometimes the night of. Sometimes
or the day of.
Or the day of, yeah. The night before, the night of. I know I've gotten a code from them at one time, like 3 p.m. the day it came out.
Right.
And they are always very transparent. They try to be very transparent with like, hey, this is, you know, limited. There's only so many, you know. Besides the point. This isn't a critique on Capcom creators, but I wish it was a little bit more like, yes, you're getting the game on this day. This is the normal, and this is what we're doing.
It was a little bit more transparent because
yes.
they came out that week and said, hey, guys, we know the leaks are happening. We're sorry. We're going to try to get you a code Wednesday instead. So me, John, and Dustin were like, well, fuck it. Let's just...
We're here.
We're here. We got the stuff set up. We got 3 computers set up down here. We had the whole thing set up, and we eventually did get it, but like John said, it was very late, and we kind of took breaks after like the 4-hour mark. We kind of took a break from the whole thing, slept, came back, finished it, but it was still very long. And to do that and then a 24-hour stream within a week's time,
which is why we pushed
a lot.
It.
Yeah.
Yeah, we pushed it out because we were like, yeah, this isn't going according to plan. You know, there are some people who are going to hear this and be like, you know, boo-hoo, you guys should get the game like everybody else gets the game. But what you don't understand is it's not, for us, it's not that we're playing it before you.
No.
We want to make sure that after you go and play the game, as a fan of our channel, you have stuff to watch afterwards.
Yes.
Because unfortunately, we live in an ever-evolving world where things really only get views for 2 weeks, and then it's
simmers
done.
out. Yeah.
So we are starting in the simmer down time, basically, for all this content. That we're still expecting it to do well. Requiem is still
it's still hot. It's still one of the top
still
stream
hot.
games.
It's doing fantastic in sales. They've crossed over 5 million already. We know that number's probably already over 6 million
at this point. Yeah,
at this point, at the recording of this podcast, and we do know, which this show doesn't really have much to say about it, but as of the recording of this show, DLC has been announced, story DLC and minigame DLC has been announced for May and probably the fall. We don't know.
Yeah, whenever the story expansion decides to rear its head.
So it's obviously worth it for them to continue because they could have easily just axed it if the game didn't do well. So with that being said, our rollout didn't go any way we planned it. We had a plan A, B, C, D, E, all the way through like H.
Yeah.
We called it through Z, but it was really through H. And what ended up happening was Plan H.
Yep.
Which was, okay, guess we're getting it the day of like everybody else. And all these really cool plans we had for... we were going to do guides.
Yep.
We were going to do everything. We were going to do where's all the raccoons, where's all the files, how, do you struggle against this enemy? Well, this is the tip and trick to defeat this enemy quickly. We were going to do all of that if we had gotten the game Monday. We were just going to purge ourselves, basically our bodies and not sleep and just give you guys as much content as we could. That is not how it worked out. And all this experience has taught us is we won't ever plan for that again, because it just seems to be if you know the right people or they like you, you get in.
Exactly. If you're not in the club, you're not in the club.
If you're not in the club, you're not getting the game a week or two early like some other people, some other creators who get it for whatever reason. We did the best we could, and that's why these videos are coming out now. So we were kind of riding a bum. Like, we were bummed. It wasn't a high, it was a bum. And
we were screaming and yelling at 2 a.m.
At 2 a.m. right before we got the code. Like, before...
Basically,
bless her heart. Yeah. Our community manager that over at Capcom Creators was like, "No, I got you. I'm pulling a late night. Here you go."
Yeah, which again, it's a shame that it came down to me having to reach out one more time. But as they say, sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
I would urge you to push for better clarification and more fair time frames instead of having to tell us last minute, "Oh, by the way, this embargo for one console is different than another console."
Yeah, they weren't really clear with that.
I'm not going to get into too many details. I'm just going to say, like, the transparency, I feel for the people behind Capcom Creators, because it feels like it's not their ineptness, it's the ineptness of the people above them.
It's the corporate top, because the people in the Discord and the creators
are all wonderful.
They're great, but they're also not like Capcom employees.
Yeah, they're not Capcom
they're
employees.
Community like managers or employee, like, I'm sure that they get paid for the time that they put in, but they're like you just said, like the tippy top makes those decisions. They get sent that information, they relay it to us. But the tippy top just didn't communicate to everybody in full transparency. But we did kind of waste 4 or 5 hours waiting. We could have been into the Chronic Care Center.
And
by
we
the time
felt
we
like we wasted. Honestly, we were expecting to get the game Monday.
We had a snowstorm as well.
We had a snowstorm, which probably is the reason we didn't get the game Monday. It really felt like we wasted 4 days, Monday through Thursday. Because then Wednesday night we get the code, and it's like, okay, well, tomorrow's Thursday, and then Friday the game's out for everybody.
Yeah, so we ultimately were like, let's just record this first playthrough offline, which actually was so much better.
It was better. If we weren't tired, it would have been perfect.
That's true.
And we won't be tired next time. We know. And this kind of segment, we're just putting this in the front.
Yeah.
So you guys understand like what to expect as well. Why don't you tell them what they can expect from us for the next couple of months while we're waiting for the minigame DLC?
Yeah, we have a fuck ton of like lore videos and discussions on characters and villains and different things now that we have this game within our Resident Evil lore, within our timeline. So we're still going to be busy with the RE stuff. We won't have to worry about like news breaks as much or new glimpses. Now it's like we're kind of We're going to take control. This was like this podcast is the last like urgent thing that I really want to get out there while the iron is still somewhat hot. This podcast is going to be the review, our definitive thoughts. Myself and John took our time to play the game off camera, away from the public, which sometimes is nice because you could just play and be yourself. There's the breathing room, right?
That's what I said in the live stream, our 24-hour live stream. I even said, like, I feel like there's a lot of recency bias happening right now. And one thing that you and I learned from Village is that when something comes out and it's immediate, it's not always good to start making broad claims like it's the best game we've ever gotten. It's the worst game we've ever gotten. Is Village the worst game we've ever gotten? No. For us, it's our least favorite mainline, but it's not the worst game they've ever put out. Is this game the best game we've ever gotten? No. And that's just, I think I speak for both of us when I say that. It's not the best game we've ever gotten, but
we really enjoy this game.
Yeah. Does this game hold up 2 weeks later? Or just about 2 weeks later? I guess Friday will be 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So does this game hold up? We're recording this on March 11th, which is Wednesday.
Yeah, so about just under 2 weeks. Basically, by the time you guys see this, Friday is when we're trying to put this out. It'll be 2 weeks. Like John said, like, that's why these podcasts are so important to wait. We did an initial thoughts just after our first playthrough, sure, but we wanted to make sure that, everybody has a chance to kind of digest, simmer, and me and you came into this room today well prepared. And have our minds pretty much set where they're at. Now, obviously, if years pass and we feel a certain type of way, that's happened with games before.
For sure.
Some people might clock us on some stuff we've said years ago that doesn't, it's changed. Things change also. Like
opinions change.
Sometimes you could play a game that's a lot worse or a lot better, and you would put it somewhere different on your list, right? Like, so, but this is how we feel pretty definitively. And there's a lot to get into with this game. And thankfully, we're just a lot more appreciative of kind of the things that, we were able to kind of get out of our first few experiences, especially together. We were able to play it offline and like have those discussions or read through the files and have those reactions. Like, I'm happy that everything kind of worked out in that regard because those are memorable experiences that are captured forever.
Yeah. And I think to add to that point too, the average gamer that I know, like in terms of just not necessarily my friend circle or like the people who might watch this channel, because you're probably above the average Resident Evil fan if you're watching YouTubers that talk about Resident Evil all the time.
We're watching a 3 to 4 hour show.
We're watching a 3 to 4 hour podcast. Yeah. You're probably a little more invested in this game. You probably are willing to revisit these games. I have a best friend. His name is Tim. He's a viewer and a mod on the channel. Mm-hmm. He very rarely plays games twice. And I think most people are like that. I think most people play either their forever game, like a World of Warcraft or a Sims or a Call of Duty, the game that keeps giving, League of Legends. Like they play either those kind of games. But for these narrative-driven story experiences, most people probably only play them once. And this goes into, multiple endings, and people's opinions drastically change in video games when you get one ending versus another. Then later, when they find out there was multiple endings, they're like, oh, I wish I would have got that one. It was so much better. This is not a Resident Evil unique problem, but all that is to just say that opinions do change over time. And another thing I think that I've come to learn recently, very, very much so, people talk about their favorite games of all time. And when you and I talk about our favorite games of all time, we're talking about it not just from when we were 10 or 6 or 15 or 30. Welcome to the 30s.
Yes.
We're talking about it. Yes, Resident Evil 3 is your favorite game of all time. Resident Evil 2 is my favorite game of all time.
Still.
You and I have both played that game within the last 6 months. Both of them.
Regardless of content, we would have done
We would have played it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
I've played them both off stream.
That's a good point, right?
Like, we play them over and over again. A lot of people remember their favorite games of all time and haven't touched them in 10 years.
They remember that first experience.
They remember that Final Fantasy VII experience or Doom experience or Kingdom Hearts experience. They remember their Pokemon Red and Blue experience.
Sure.
They don't remember like they just replayed it. And rose-tinted glasses is the phrase that people use for that stuff.
For sure.
They look back at World of Warcraft and they remember vanilla. They don't remember Cataclysm, right? We play all of these games pretty much on a yearly basis. We rank these. So I want you to keep in mind as we get through this show, the legacy that Resident Evil Requiem is up against and being judged against. And this is something we should have, the foreword, right? This is something we probably should have said at the beginning of our Village show. We're not just judging Requiem for Requiem. This is a Resident Evil channel. We're judging it against its peers. And that might make our review skew up or down. Whereas if we were just a multi-platform gamer like a Maximilian Dude or a Markiplier or whatever you want to say, a Penguin Zero, whatever, Charlie, whatever you want to name, whatever his name is now, you have to remember we're on this channel to talk about Resident Evil. We're not comparing this to the eventual Grand Theft Auto 6.
Yes.
We're not comparing this to the recent obsession of mine, Pocopia. Okay. We're not comparing this to a Silent Hill 2 remake last year. This is Resident Evil being judged as a Resident Evil title. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. I think especially because this is a mainline Resident Evil, so it's also a big deal.
It's a big deal.
We've talked about remakes, of course. We've had great remakes in the past few years. But this is a mainline, and there's a lot on the line here. There's a lot that we were scared about, some worries, some concerns, some valid, some, we were proven wrong about. But I think as we get into this here,
happily.
like John said, happily.
Yeah.
As we get into this here, this is really, like John said, it's up against what we know, the legacy of Resident Evil.
The reason why I bring that up is because our review score as a video game could be different than as Resident Evil. Resident Evil 7 is a perfect example of this. I review Resident Evil 7 lower as a Resident Evil game, but if you asked me as a game, as somebody, if Tim asked me, shout out to Tim, Teetering Peaks, if he asked me, is RE7 a great game, I would say yes. But it's not what I like. It's not in line with what I think is a good Resident Evil game. Those both can be true. Just keep that in mind. I'm not going to harp on that too much. I'm just saying, I'm not going to repeat that later. This is your warning. We are judging it based on this, which means, dear commenter, if you are commenting that at least this is better than so-and-so, it's going to be ignored because we're not talking about other video games. We're talking about Resident Evil.
Comparisons to Resident Evil, that's just naturally going to happen.
It's going to happen. We're going to compare it to 4. We're going to compare it to 6. We're going to compare it to 7.
The franchise turns 30 this month, so this is a pretty huge month for the franchise as well.
Yes.
So this podcast is on the stance of a few weeks between the 30th anniversary, which is insane. So, yeah, let's get right into it, man.
Hell yeah. Where do you want to start?
So I think the gameplay is a good place to start. We knew going into Resident Evil 9 that this was in fact going to have this, the RE2 remake, RE7 slower burn survival horror for Grace, and Leon was going to have a more ramped up version of something you would see in RE4 remake and beyond, right? The more action side of the game is really centered around Leon. And I think for Grace and Leon specifically to have these differences. Grace specifically is someone who is, going to have limited inventory space. She's literally only gets 2 handguns and the Requiem. That's just 3 total on top of your bottles, your Molotovs, your bottles of acid that you can make in the lab and stuff like that. So she's very minimalistic in that approach. She's also a very green character to this situation. She's never dealt with this before. So her limitations and, oh man, I don't have enough space. I got to go back to the item box because I still have to get these, side packs. That's all original Resident Evil material, right? You're constantly going back. You don't have enough space for this. Don't have enough space for that. You can't really take out all the enemies unless you want to be drained of ammo, especially once you get to like something like the blister heads. If you're playing on standard classic, it really puts into that challenge. Grace also has, the upgrades, the steroids, the injectors, the things to help her aiming, help her health, length, and everything like that. So you can obviously get hit, take more impact and stuff like that. So it does take that RE7 approach, and I think it's done very well, because I think that this does kind of blip RE8 out, and where like RE8 turned right into action coming off of 7, where this kind of reverted a little bit back down a peg to 7 in a good way, because that's what I liked about 7, is even though Ethan wasn't a great new character in our opinion, it still gave him limited resources that kind of amped up the horror. And I feel like with Grace in especially the Chronic Care Center, it shines through.
7's problem is definitely not gameplay. The
Right.
gameplay element of RE7 is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it really is. And I think it was a nice return, I think, in the main line for them to go back to that, even though there was only a game in between 7 and 9, obviously. So I really liked how this game handled with both of them. Leon, obviously, you have your action side of things. He's going to have the wide gun variety. He's going to have the parry mechanic. You can, sharpen your tomahawk or hatchet, right? It does have that snappy flow of RE4 Remake. And Leon handles pretty much all of the actual boss fights in this game, where Grace doesn't necessarily get that. So this is definitely showing Leon's age in a more like productive way, where like while he is dealing with Raccoon City Syndrome in this game, Leon's advantages definitely show here, and he could just take on things a lot more easier, and we kind of knew that was going to be the case going into this game when they kind of explain those differences and how he's going to be able to clear out rooms that Grace can't necessarily clear out, especially on harder modes, and you just feel that power behind Leon when you get to have that tension and the release, so to speak. It seems like that is very much on with what they were going for, and I think that I enjoyed going back to each of them within the gameplay. Like I feel like I enjoyed every time I was with Leon. I wasn't hoping that I was with Grace or vice versa. Like I feel like the gameplay felt immersive enough where I felt like it was very well done. And of course, with Grace, I don't want to ignore the fact that Marie, the stalker enemy, is also involved. So it adds that layer of trying to hide, stay stealthy. You might not be able to shoot her and she'll just walk away, right? Maybe if you have a couple Requiem shots, maybe if you have a Molotov that you crafted, but it does feel like someone's on your ass all the time in certain sections of the Chronic Care Center. And it wasn't the entire time, because they would break it up to where it didn't feel like, oh man, I can't stop getting chased, right? So I like the fact that they used the stalker enemy tastefully. I like the tension there. And I love the release with Leon being that, kind of the hero that we all know all these years later, and being able to take on all this stuff. How did you feel about the gameplay dynamic between Grace and Leon, the old school kind of vibe with the survival horror versus the action side?
So both are done well. I wasn't disappointed in either of them in terms of like how it feels to play as Grace or how it feels to play as Leon for the most part. There are a couple things that I do have criticisms about. On a first playthrough, I feel like it was weird that Leon only starts getting upgrades halfway through the game. I also feel like it was weird that Grace kind of only gets really upgrades through the first half of the game.
Right, after the Chronic Care Center, if you don't put those coins in the parlor and you leave with Emily, that's it.
Well, you can craft them with the empty injectors, but most of the empty injectors are found in the Chronic Care Center.
So you could miss them in theory.
So you could miss them in theory and then not have any upgrades, which is fine. Missing something is okay.
And you're going to do that your first playthrough.
Yeah.
We did the same thing,
I, off the top of my head, I've played the game 8 times, 2 with you, 6 on my own. I don't know if you can max everything out with Grace. I know that on repeat playthroughs, because I know where everything is and I know how to play the game and I know how to do executions now and everything that we didn't for our first playthrough. we figured that out, obviously, and we figured out how to do it. And
Yeah, we both gotten better at the game.
Yeah.
Before people were like, you guys didn't do this.
I
You didn't do that.
Well, it's people don't realize that like we get done and we instantly record. We don't have time to figure it out because we have to put content out.
Yeah, and we're recording our first run, our first
So
reactions.
by the time somebody sees our video and types the answer, we already have it. We've already figured it out on the back end
Right.
afterwards, which is fine. They're just, our 7 millionth comment. This is actually, guys, you shouldn't, if you want the executions, you have to not be far away. And what did I say in that video? Well, we were basically trained to keep your distance and fight from a distance. So we weren't going to get them. And I said that, but people didn't hear that. They just heard, oh my God, Anthony and John doesn't know how to do it.
They don't know how to do it, yeah.
The way that you do it, by the way, in case you didn't know, or in case somebody watching this doesn't know.
I know now.
Yeah. It's just a parry.
With the R2 button.
You just R2. You just parry. But we weren't put in a position to really do that on our first playthrough. It's definitely not in insanity mode because you didn't want to get grabbed, right?
Yeah.
So in our first playthrough, we weren't really put in a position to do that because we mostly stayed away. We also used the rifle a lot because the rifle's the best weapon in the game.
Love the bolt action.
The bolt action rifle is the best weapon in the game. So, hands down. Besides like infinite unlocks. And yes, commenter who typed it, you can stop. Anthony knows there's an unlockable gun for Grace. We're not talking about unlockables. So she does have another machine. Here's a machine pistol as well.
Sure, yeah.
But we're not mentioning those. We're just talking about the game on our first playthrough, basically. Or repeat playthroughs without the special content.
Yeah.
No Matilda, no Infinite Rocket Launcher, no.
Yeah.
We're not talking about that. We'll talk about that when we talk about unlockables later.
Yeah.
My biggest issue with the Grace sections of the game was just that I don't feel like your first playthrough is enough for you to really know what to do. Whereas with a second playthrough or a third or a fourth, it really clicks and you're like, okay, I just won't kill anything. And then I'll come through here with Batman himself and just dispatch everything. And I feel personally that weighed down Grace's sections a little bit for me because I almost feel like they want you not to play the game with Grace. Now, sound design, world design, zombie design, the personalities, and everything that you get to see as Grace, and the way we played the first time, which was we killed everything, and then Leon was walking around an empty house.
Yeah.
Like that, the way that we approached it, I feel like was the natural way most people probably approached it the first time.
Because we played it on Standard Classic, to be clear, for anyone listening, if you didn't watch our first playthrough.
I feel like we did it the way that most people would play it on their first playthrough because you're not used to having this switching.
No.
Even with Resident Evil 2 Remake or Resident Evil 2 Original, when you play the Beast scenario, all the zombies are still there.
Mm-hmm.
You got to fight them all again.
Yeah.
They might have different encounters here and there, but it's not like
pretty much
something
the
you
same.
kill in the first one is going to...
It didn't connect.
Yeah.
In the remake.
So we're not really classically trained to do this, to avoid it. So the first time through, yeah, the best way to play the game, though, is to only kill exactly what you have to as Grace, and then come through and wipe the floor with Leon. That's the best way. That's the most optimal way to play.
Most efficient way.
Most efficient way to play. Barring speed running, we're not talking about self-inflicted rules or anything like that. If you want to play this game and really enjoy it and get the most out of both sides, play more stealth Outlast style with Grace. Play more RE4 style with Leon. My biggest criticism with Leon is a very small one and something that I was willing to basically completely almost overlook. Is just that because Leon has some set pieces where it's like very closed and you're in tight hallways and corridors and
walls are breaking down.
Walls are breaking down and stuff.
Up on the ladder. Yeah.
Exactly. It doesn't feel like you get to take full advantage of the RE4 combat style because RE4 has a lot of open spaces.
It does.
It does have corridors as well. It does have hallways. It does have stuff like that. But most of the time when you're coming into like a farm or something, there is always wide spaces for you to be able to lure enemies or take a different tactical approach or stealth or whatever you want to do. And I felt like in RE9's, you couldn't play how you wanted to play, or it wasn't incentivized to play how you want to play throughout the game, like an RE4 remake is, where there's multiple locations throughout the entire game. You could stealth the whole thing, or you could snipe the whole thing and go guns blazing, or
it gave you a different approach.
They gave you different approaches, and that's one of the things about this gameplay that I felt the developers were very intentional with. Okay, stealth this. Okay, don't stealth this. Okay, don't do this. And that's one of the areas where I wish they would have expanded upon it a little bit to let you do different things. I don't think the character switching worked as well as they wanted it to in the Chronic Care Center. Again, our first playthrough, we basically ran around an empty house.
After killing it with
and
Grace.
Then went up to the elevator. And then, think about this, okay? Think about this. You take control of Leon, and we're not going to do this for every part of the game, but only when it's relevant. You take control of Leon, and essentially your mission is, you wake up and Gideon's interrogating you. You kill Chunk, you come out to the house, and for the way we played, you either go break open all the doors, the cabinets, to get the stuff.
Grab all the goodies.
And John Travolta.
Everything's gone.
Everyone's
gone.
Everybody's gone, right? Then you go upstairs and boom, Leon's done. You're back to Grace.
Yeah.
And that felt really bad.
No, that's a good point. I think that's where
that one section.
Right.
Not the rest of the game,
right.
Just that one part.
Some pacing, like the ping-ponging off of each character.
Yeah.
There's some sections to tackle on top of that. I think that could have worked a lot better.
And you can add on to that and just say Leon. Because all of Grace's sections are fine. None of them get cut short.
Yeah, you're right. I think it is mostly on
the
Leon,
first half of
Leon because Grace, and once she's at the Chronic Care Center, it felt like that flowed very well, literally until the time when she leaves.
The first two sections, not to keep bringing Tim up, but this is relevant because he's a casual gamer, like in terms of not what we are. So I'm using him as an example of a Resident Evil casual because that's what he is. He texted me both times he finished Leon's sections, and he was just like, man, Leon's really short. You gain control of Leon, you run through the street, you're back to Grace for a couple of hours. You gain control of Leon, everybody's gone, back to Grace for a couple of hours. It was really weird. It almost felt like they would have benefited more if they just made them two separate campaigns entirely. And I think that's going to be a reoccurring theme of this show. I don't think they failed in making a great game.
Yeah.
I think that this is the only time this will work, though, before people are like, okay, now I'm starting to see the problem.
Yeah, it worked for this game, but I don't know if they can keep doing this going forward.
Yeah.
Because it could just get stale with the the backdrop of something that might not work as well.
It's like, whose turn is it going to be to get the spotlight? A lot of people were worried that Leon was going to take the spotlight away from Grace.
No.
And I don't think that happened. I actually think that Leon's sections as a whole are weaker than Grace's sections. But they have maybe higher pinnacles. Like they have higher peaks. Whereas Grace has less valleys, if that makes sense. If you're listening to this and that makes sense. There are moments when you're playing as Leon where you're like, this is awesome. This is so cool. Then there's moments where you're playing as Grace and you're never really upset. You're never like, this needed something different, or this needed something more, or I don't want to be here. I mean, Grace didn't want to be there.
No.
I hate this place, right? She's great. Grace was just a steady, enjoyable experience. And maybe it's just the fact that I prefer the horror to the action inherently because that's the roots of the franchise.
Yeah. That's what I thought it did very well on touching on. I think that they leaned into that more. Yeah. And because the Chronic Care Center is such a great and amazing design, I just felt like I always wanted to go back, to her side of the Chronic Care Center.
Yeah.
Because, there are people that could be listening, and you could essentially leave Leon with more stuff depending on how you played. So it also depends on how you play, right? There isn't really much of a struggle. And once you know how to manage that and how to like dance around certain things, like you said, the routing kind of improves per playthrough, so you can really just outsmart and outmaneuver and know exactly what to do. And that's like any RE. But I think, like you said, I didn't mind it. I didn't mind that it wasn't two different story campaigns. But I do agree with, like, you probably couldn't do this again in fear of really having something that's not balanced as much as this one. Yeah, is a little bit more balanced, even though there was some pacing stuff like we just mentioned that could be adjusted from gameplay side of things, but like it worked for the most part, man, for me.
Yeah, and it feels like too, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm crapping on the game, because I'm not, but it also feels like when Grace's sections are gone, you're Leon for a long time on a first playthrough. You're Leon for a long time. And we're just supposed to believe that Grace is just walking around with the bad guys, like talking.
That whole second half, Grace isn't really around at all until you get to the RPD, and then she's in a cutscene, and then you don't really take control as her until the last part of Arc. I mean, It really is like she's kind of like poof, gone, getting this explanation from these two villains, willingly walks out with them and lets them explain to her what's going on, which is also a very odd thing considering everything.
It's okay. Plot has to plot. Right?
Yeah, they got to move it along. But I just think that like screen time between her and Victor and Zeno gets significantly cut down that second half of the game. But we'll get into that when we talk about characters. But
I'm just talking as a gameplay perspective.
Yeah, gameplay perspective, it seems like the second half was all Leon all the time because we were going back to Raccoon City. They felt like that was
my
necessary.
point. It feels like the first game is horror heavy, and the second half, the first game. See, should have been two games, for two campaigns. It feels like the first half of the game is very horror heavy, and the second half of the game is very action heavy. Even when you take over as Grace in the lab. Am I the only one who thought it felt a little more actiony than the Chronic Care Center? You're kind of like maneuvering through a lab and like slamming bottles of acid and flames and Molotovs, and you're more equipped to deal with the threats than you were in the first half of the game. Yeah,
you have a little bit more. You're upgraded at that point, hopefully, if that's what you did, and you have a little bit more crafting material. If you saved enough stuff. I feel like that part can still be very challenging if you screwed yourself. Because if you didn't know you had to upgrade all the stuff in the parlor and you didn't know you can just use the injectors, it could be very challenging depending on how you handled Grace leading up to that point in the lab. Like the liquors are always kind of terrifying, right? But when you're trying to stealth these zombies and you're trying to avoid the liquors as Grace, it's still pretty intimidating, especially on the harder modes. But once you know kind of how you can maneuver and sneak, and you learn, it becomes a little less intimidating, obviously, like most things on multiple playthroughs, but you can kind of maneuver around the lab a little more efficiently. So I guess it really depends on how you handle Grace up until that point, with how terrifying or how action, I guess it could be, because it still seems very minimalistic at that point. You only have so much stuff, and the liquors do go down, but they're still a little spongy in this game, as Grace or for Grace. So it I guess depends. If you use a Requiem, I guess, depending on how much Requiem ammo, because you can get a lot of Requiem ammo if you just don't use it and you just wait for one section of the game, for Grace specifically, not just Leon. You know what I mean? But at that point, you don't have it. So it takes away the Requiem again because she gives it back to Leon after the Emily encounter.
She doesn't have it in the lab.
She doesn't have it in the lab. So like it kind of like takes another thing away from you, and you kind of have. That's why I like that section as Grace in the arc. But
I like all the sections as Grace for sure. I actually tested this. I didn't upgrade my health or my stabilization, whatever you want to call it.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't feel like they really upgraded a whole lot. The health does, but the stabilizer,
she's still a little shaky.
Not really. The animation's definitely not that bad, but I didn't really feel, after the zombies in the Chronic Care Center, I never really felt the effect of like, oh, I can't kill things anymore. You just don't shoot lickers.
Yeah.
It's a death sentence.
Yeah, I think...
You break acid on them and they die instantly.
I think there's an interesting character decision when she's in the basement and before Emily's transformation, when she has that look of determination to turn the power on and to escape with Emily.
Yeah.
There's like a certain shift in her character almost.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I'm confident now. Like, I got this in a way. Even though she's still scared shitless.
Yeah.
You can almost kind of tell that, like, it's intended for the character to kind of feel, while they're still scared, there's still more confidence within that character. And maybe that also shines through on that very end of the game and arc.
I feel like Grace really kicks it into overdrive when she has to protect the little girl, Emily. There is a character shift for her for sure, and then there's a deflation when Emily gets clapped by Leon.
Of course,
clapped. We all know she lives, but gets gunned down by Leon in cold blood. I'm sorry.
Yep.
People were surprised we shot her. Yeah, fucking hell if we shot her.
Yeah,
She's
that's
a
what
monster.
Leon would do.
That's what Leon would do. And then Emily really changed Grace's character for the good.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of parallels, which we'll talk about when we talk about the story, with how I really like Grace as a character. I thought she was way better than Ethan. Welcome addition. I hope it's not the last we see of her. Probably will be. But
yeah,
I hope it's not the last we see of her.
Yeah, I genuinely enjoyed going back to each character throughout this gameplay and enjoying what each side of it had to offer. Now, what did you think of the first and third person perspectives? So this also goes into the gameplay bit here that I wanted to touch on.
Yes.
The first playthrough, as you guys saw, or may not have seen, we did the recommended, which is first for Grace, third person for Leon. Myself and John, I could speak for you here, where I think we just prefer third person across the board.
Yeah.
But they still at least feel as fluid as it did. This isn't a Village DLC situation where the gold edition, you get the third person, and it kind of feels a little like an afterthought. They really put a lot of thought into first and third person. We're old school. We obviously, fixed camera angles is probably our favorite, but we're not going to get that anymore. So we've adjusted to third person over the shoulder. I felt like the first and third person definitely felt more connected and balanced here. I just think we both personally like the third person.
First person was terrible. Now, let me extrapolate.
You had to adjust settings. You guys saw us do that.
Let me extrapolate on that. So, the first person with the default setting, somebody was drunk because it's bad.
We had to adjust it like a lot. John actually went and adjusted it to where it's still fine-tuned like that, I think, on my console settings.
Yes. It's the first. I just changed it on your Switch as well. I went in the first person and I took 2 steps. I said, nope.
Yeah.
Once the settings are adjusted, it's perfect. I think that going forward, you got to have both, because both is... You have fans of... You did this, Capcom. It's your fault. And I will side with my fellow Village fan before I'll side with get rid of it. Because you were the guys, Capcom, you're the ones who made 2 first-person games that the majority of the fan base thinks are bangers. Widely appealed 7 is a banger, right?
Sure.
7's a great video game. You can't do that and then not expect people to want it. It's just not how it works. It's not going from fixed camera to third person because of a technological leap, right? You're going to this first person. This was a decision.
You're making these creative choices.
You are making a creative choice to sell the VR. But you're making a creative choice to, hey, we're going to make this game, you know, these people are going to be at home touching their dinguses and the VR goggles, and we want to do this.
That's why Ethan was a template of the player, the VR player.
Exactly.
Right?
I am not going to hate on a fellow Resident Evil fan who likes first person, because I don't think the perspective matters.
No, like what did we say at the promotion of this? It's a win-win for all sides.
So settings, default settings, terrible. Whoever said camera wobble 0 through 10 is your setting, we're going to set it to 10 by default.
It is insane work.
You literally, Anthony took the controller in our first playthrough. You might even be able to watch back and see my eyes. He turned and I said, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
It was worse motion sickness. Not that I got like ill, because we recovered it pretty quickly. But it was the worst motion sickness I've ever experienced, having played at least 100 hours of my life on PlayStation VR. On VR, it was less motion sickness on 7 than was on that, and it was all the camera wobble. As soon as we got rid of the camera wobble, we turned it down to 5. I highly recommend you turn it down to 5. It fixes so many issues. I didn't even have to disable motion blur.
No, I think it's still on.
It's still on.
Yeah.
The motion blur wasn't the problem for me.
No.
And that's usually what I turn off first.
Yeah, so we were a little surprised we had to tweak with it as much, or like John said, I don't know who thought that was a good idea for default. Maybe some people didn't notice. We definitely fucking noticed.
100%.
Like all three of us were like, that's a little disorienting.
100%. And I feel like another thing too is we were playing on a 55-inch TV, right? Or 65.
Yes,
55-inch TV. We were playing on a bigger screen. I'm sure on like a 24-inch monitor, it's probably not as bad.
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing like on a Switch or something, it's probably not as bad. But yeah, I'm not going to hate on the first person mode. I did play the game in first person. I said I would never do it, and I did. Just so that I could say it. I never will again, unless it's like a stream requirement. But my preferred method is third person, but why not give the first person crowd what they want when you clearly can do both?
And
with little to no sacrifice.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like the game had to sacrifice one or the other for both. And I like how some of the cutscenes were actually directed in first person and some of the cutscenes were directed in third person.
Yes.
And they let you do both. Like you don't, if you're in third person, they still show that cutscene like when she's hiding from Victor.
It like cuts to her POV.
It cuts to first person.
Yeah.
Do this, Capcom, going forward. Give your players the benefit of the doubt. You know what else was cool? And another reason why I like first person a lot in terms of this game, like having the choice. There were times I wanted to look at something on the wall that I couldn't get a good angle at on third person, and I didn't have a scope. So I just switched it to first person, and I could see like the little RE disc and the Sega Saturn copy clone thing.
Yeah.
I could look in that locker more
than
I could when I was in third person. And it's not as simple as one of those games where you should click the stick and it goes whoo. Like, I don't want that. I think because I would hate that if I was doing that while I was like running or something.
Yeah, like accidentally hit the button. Yeah.
Which some games have, especially old PS2 games, did that a lot. But I really do like the fact that we get to choose.
Yes, I think that was the best decision they could have made. And, you know, especially because this game sold as fast as it did, I'm curious the percentage of people that prefer one over the other, like who prefers what. I'm curious if they'd put... they did actually put out another survey recently, just asking about feedback. So I'm curious if they asked on that survey, like, what did you play in?
You know what statistic they did put out? The average completion time was just over 16 hours on the first playthrough.
It took us about 17 hours in real time and about 12 and a half hours first playthrough. So that's pretty much what it took us, going through pretty much everything. We missed like maybe 5 files and one
that's the
or
game
two Mr.
timer.
Raccoon. Yeah.
So we beat the game 4 hours faster than the average. Of course we did. We're Resident Evil fans. Like most people watching this probably beat it faster.
Right.
Just by being experienced with knowing, oh, this is a Resident Evilism. I need to go put the dingus in the dingus.
Yeah, we knew
to
like look around. We we did miss a couple things like Kendo Shotgun, which sucks, but we got it the second playthrough. And again, we're not gonna, there's some people that might go back and watch it and be frustrated with certain things that we did.
Dude, I had the Kendo Shotgun the night I got home.
Yeah,
you took me home and I started editing it.
Yeah,
and I played the game again, and before my head hit the pillow, I turned around and picked up the shotgun and said,
yeah, like, fuck. They're not going to let this one go. Yeah.
And that all comes from the fact that we were just tired. Usually we do a better job.
Yeah, and we did survey. I mean, the fact that we got everything but like 1 or 2 Mr. Raccoons and we only missed 5
3
files.
Mr. Raccoons and 6 files.
6 files?
Yeah.
So it's like, that's still pretty damn good. We took our time, and the gameplay had us invested enough to actually look around, and the files within the game were awesome.
Yes.
I really don't have any complaints about the files and the lore and the backstory that they gave for us, through us. Just everything is as I would have liked it set up to be, especially with keeping us entertained. And I never felt bored. I didn't feel like there was like a chore part. I know a lot of people talk about the detonator and getting the pieces. I wasn't a fan of the mortar strike zombies. I thought that was goofy. But other than that, like when you get better at that routing, it doesn't take as long. Obviously, the first few times you're gonna get lost. You're gonna get turned around. Some places in Raccoon City do look the same. So you're kind of like, okay, where am I going? And then you understand the map and you learn it. It's like anything else. You learn it. And I think gameplay-wise, they did a phenomenal job, give or take, like I said, a couple pacing things that we didn't like. And like you said, first and third person, just keep it from now on. It makes fans happy.
If Code Veronica Remake comes out or RE1 Remake comes out, have both.
Yeah.
Do both.
Do both. If you're eventually going to do, a PSVR thing for RE9, or you're going to continue that routine as well.
Yeah, why not?
It makes sense to
It just adds to the value of your game.
Yeah.
You get to put it in VR every time.
The Gold Edition might have an RE9 VR update.
I'm sure it will.
So let's talk about the upgrades within the gameplay, because there's two different styles of upgrading between Grace and Leon. We obviously know Grace has the coins for the parlor, very similar to like the coins in RE7.
Which we mentioned earlier.
We mentioned that earlier. And so the blood and the crafting for Grace's side was a huge factor in also how you can craft all your different items and stuff like that. I thought this was very fun. I thought it was very well done, and I like the concept of Grace having to, basically you have that reward. Like, yes, you're killing a zombie, you're using all this ammo, but is it worth it to craft something like Requiem ammo that you might need later? Like, I liked that back and forth of like, should I do this? Should I do that? Can you find blood packs that will also help you, craft stuff faster? I liked this side of Grace's gameplay, and it just kind of adds to that minimalistic approach of like what you would find in an original Resident Evil, where you would have to, make gunpowder or craft gunpowder. Leon gets gunpowder, but I like the fact that Grace had that with the blood and the injectors and everything like that. And the fact that, like, if you have an injector or you want to craft an injector to take out, like, a chunk as Grace, your balance of what you spend to get that, is it worth to get the charm? I loved all that stuff. How did you feel about the blood and the crafting on the Grace side of things?
So, I do like the crafting. I think the crafting was interesting. I like that they were very, very generous with the blood, especially even in our, maybe not, Insanity still was pretty generous. We were able to utilize a lot. I feel like it's much better of a system game has to game. I don't understand really the lore. Why is blood being used for bullets? And also a thing that you inject yourself with to heal. And also cocktails.
Like metal
and
and
also
scrap.
acid.
Yeah, like metal and scrap, I get. Like,
same thing.
Yeah.
You know.
I know, but I didn't like think it was that distracting enough, I guess, to where I was like, oh, what the hell is she doing with this to make ammo? Like, you're right. It is just kind of the game being the game. You just kind of have to, in a world of horror and survival horror, you have to, of stuff that doesn't make sense, you kind of have to suspend your disbelief of stuff that might not make a lot of sense, I guess.
Yeah, like you're using infected blood to power up yourself. Well, then isn't she infected? Why isn't she dying? You're using their blood to craft
an injector
to then kill them.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a little strange, but I am a fan of game has to game sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't need an explanation. It could be as simple as it's a gameplay choice.
Well, also because, like, if you think about how many blister heads Grace has to deal with and how tanky they are in harder modes, those injectors come in handy when you need them.
And again, that's another thing about the duality of them playing. Just don't kill anything and you don't have any blister heads.
It's true.
You get a couple that are always going to turn.
Always have to turn, yeah.
But just don't kill them.
You can have chunk kill certain enemies. Like there's cool little things that you could do that are like a little sneaky gameplay bits that I like that you can take advantage of on multiple playthroughs.
Yeah, I also really like with the crafting system that you can break down a knife into scrap and then essentially
Deconstruct
turn the scrap back into a knife.
Yeah, you can reconstruct and deconstruct.
Yeah, there's like different things that you can do. You can deconstruct all of the knives, except for I think the infinite one you can unlock.
Rip knife.
Regardless.
Good old rip knife, right?
Yeah.
On Insanity. That thing helped us.
RIP knife, yeah.
That thing is it's helpful.
Yeah,
I like all that
You
stuff.
got multiple, actually.
Yeah, because she does have the makeshift,
scissor
knife that basically is really helpful on, getting grabbed because of how much damage you do take on Standard Classic or something like Insanity. So some of those little elements, or saving your glass bottles. Instead of throwing them, sometimes you have to stun. But if you save them and you make Molotovs later, that's like super helpful, especially against Marie. So I like all that shit. I liked all those attempts to make Grace feel like original Resident Evil, but having that little twist of the crafting side, which has always been in every Resident Evil. But I liked her twist to it all.
Leon's makes more sense in a gameplay perspective because he's crafting with gunpowder and scrap to make...
Yeah, I think, you mean more specific details of like how it makes sense, I guess.
Now, even so, are we led to believe that Leon is melting the scrap down into hollow points and then
Right.
It's game has to game. I just thought it was funny. That's why I was bringing it up. I wasn't actually criticizing it. I was just saying, like, it doesn't really make sense. She's putting blood from an infected into a thing and then being like, die.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. But before we get to Leon, I also really like that you could unlock more crafting through analyzing the blood. I thought that was an interesting thing because then you didn't have all your crafting right away. You had to find recipes for them. That was something I believe Village did as well.
Yeah.
You could find crafting recipes. And I'm always for game has to game. I thought that part of Village was also cool. Duke's Kitchen was a little underdeveloped, but...
Yeah, they tried.
Nothing like that. Story of my life.
Yeah, story of my life.
Story of my life.
So, yeah, Leon has a different kind of upgrading system that we're familiar with Leon in past Resident Evil games. He gets a little shop with, upgrades. He obviously gets more of, weapons at his disposal, shotguns, machine guns, handguns. Obviously, your Requiem can be upgraded. But the first time around, you don't get this box until the second half of the game when you reach Raccoon City. On other playthroughs, the box and the crate and the credits for each kill that you get starts right away the first time you're in the streets with Leon. So this actually this adds a different layer because the first time you play the game, you're probably thinking, oh man, we'll see this currency right away. We'll see this right away. And even I was thinking when we first played, I'm like, why are we just getting this now? Maybe because he's dealing with more enemies at this part of the game, which I guess in theory he is. But it was a very interesting choice. But the shop is really the shop. You could still add your charms. You can still add your little attachments. You can add your sights, your scopes. And some older starting weapons are actually better than the weapons you get later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's interesting because it's like, hey, here's this new shiny weapon. But sometimes you're better off with just either keeping the one you have, or if you get something like Kendo's shotgun, you can find a lot of these weapons. But it does go into, how you manage the credit system. Again, I said this the first time, kind of reminded me of Dino Crisis 2, where it would stack all your kills, and then you get credits after you get times 25, times 30 kills. You can't farm kills like in Dino Crisis 2, but it gives you credits based on your kills, which they have never done in RE unless you count the treasures you get from kills, the money you get from kills, but the fact that times 40 to 50 multiplier, you know what I mean? But some enemies don't give you as many. Like if you kill a baby spider, that's not going to give you the same as a normal zombie. So there's little things like that, but I didn't mind it. It just kind of felt like, all right, this is just kind of run-of-the-mill Leon upgrading like RE4, but no merchant. Just go up to a computer in a BSAA camp, and that's when you start using it in lore. You start using it. Other than your new game, quote-unquote new game plus, I got to be careful when I say that. When you run through it a second time, you see the crate in the Chronic Care Center. You see the crate everywhere. So it's more of like you could just start farming right away.
Yeah.
instead of waiting for the second half of the game. It was kind of an interesting choice.
Yeah.
Because the one thing they kept completely in the dark about was how Leon's upgrading and currency was going to work. They did not talk about that at all,
Not at
even with the press that got to play the first 3 to 4 hours, because it wasn't in the 3 to 4 hours you first played the game. You didn't get to a box. You didn't get to a crate. That makes sense why nobody really talked about it up until when they got like review copies and stuff like that. But yeah, I think the upgrading, in my opinion, for Grace, for Leon, those differences, I feel like they made sense and they worked for those characters. And, Leon has, like I said, the optional charms that you can find if you do the scavenger hunt for Barry. The little things, like you said, killing Chunk can give you the charm that takes less damage. There's little rewards that you get for
Grace
also
says that
getting
too.
that. That last I was saying, for Grace killing
yeah.
Chunk, you get that skull that takes less damage.
It's like hide and seek or something
like that. Yeah. So I like stuff like that, and I like the fact that, you get those difference of approach when you're playing each of these characters for upgrading.
Yeah, and on the contrary to the joke that I made earlier about the blood not making sense, this is a really cool like lore implication that the combat bracelet, it actually is kind of cool. It's like BSA agents would wear it because they're collecting combat data.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like Wesker should have slipped them on the S.T.A.R.S, people. That the technology wasn't there.
Right.
But I like the implication. It fits very in universe. And
it replaces the treasures, right? Like
yeah.
you're finding these bracelets and around that are hidden in these boxes, and if you find them, you're just getting more points for selling them.
I think there should have been dead bodies scattered around that you could shoot down and stuff that had combat bracelets.
That would have been cool.
The treasure system lacking in this game does feel like a hit. We're not going to talk about it too much. It's just, it feels like a little bit of a letdown. There were some crates that you could shoot down. There was kind of a
briefcases
treasure.
You can shoot down.
There was a treasure system in Raccoon City. It was very briefly lived. So it was there in spirit. I think it should have just been expanded upon a little bit.
Yeah, it wasn't as dynamic as RE4 Remake.
Yeah.
So it worked for what it was, but they played it safe with this, and they were just like, yeah, let's just keep Leon more just kind of, more simplistic to the point. At least it's not like RE6 where they got rid of the shop system completely and you were just using skill points. I like that I could still individually upgrade my shit. And then RE4 Remake obviously had the merchant, you had the treasure hunts, you had the side missions you could do for the extra medallions.
Yes.
This was just kind of like, okay, let's just get Leon the basics of what he needs, charms, upgrades, a little bit of dynamic with the weapons, and let's move on kind of deal is what they did.
What this game does better than RE4 Remake with the shop is that when you upgrade a weapon, you're not RPG upgrading it. It's not just getting better. It is physically changing.
That's true.
And that is something I hope they keep. It was so cool. You could buy like a different stock for the rifle because it's made of a better material for more absorbent or whatever.
Yeah.
And it would make you more stable. I really like that it literally changes the weapon.
It is cool.
What I don't like is every time you change a weapon model, the strap dinguses, and it's like...
Well, they're fixing that now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I think they did fix it.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that was in the post update, I guess.
And in
that
our
they put
footage
out.
that I recorded, just so you guys know in all the videos you're going to be seeing.
It's there.
Dude, that's the one part I switch out a weapon and you just see me rotate the camera because Leon's like this and the strap's just... And I was just like, Leon, put it... I'm like trying to like get it to go down. And all you have to do is reload the game and it'll go back to normal.
It, yeah.
But it changes. It's either one of two things. Every time you equip a charm, it fucks everything up. Or whenever you upgrade a weapon and it changes. Now, Anthony, it's kind of the final piece of the gameplay. As far as upgrades go, we have to talk about. And I'm sure we'll touch on New Game Plus later. New Game Plus.
Yeah, we got to put that in quotes, I guess.
The Requiem Plus.
Requiem.
How do you feel about the fact that whenever you play a new game, your weapons have to be re-upgraded?
I'm not a fan. I mean, I feel like they should have just kept it how they've kept it, really. Because even Village had New Game Plus where it carried over your upgrades. It's just, it leads into my questions as to why Capcom makes certain choices for certain sequels or remakes, when it was perfectly fine the way it was.
Yep.
Same thing with like not giving us like a letter rank at the end of the game. Seems like a little small thing. Some people probably won't even care. They just look at their time and like, oh, great. But it's like, why did you change it if it was fine? I feel like they should have continued over your weapons, especially as Leon, because obviously Grace doesn't really have like upgradable weapons. It's mostly upgrades to her.
Mm-hmm. She has no upgradable.
She has no upgradable, weapons, and the Requiem obviously is what it is when she has it before upgrades. So, yeah, it was just a very odd choice. I guess I'm not really a fan of that side of things. They should have just kind of kept the New Game Plus like traditional. Mm-hmm. But everything else is fine. Like the crates from the start is fine. When you play it a second time, but you basically can just like, I guess because you can get back up to where you were after killing a decent amount of zombies, you can just do it again, but it just kind of feels pointless because like, all right, this is like only my upgrades for this playthrough and it's only going to matter now, so I might as well just spend all the money now because it's not going to matter because your money doesn't carry over either. I think the only thing that carries over that you keep unlocked is your charms, I think, because they were there when I checked. And obviously, you could still buy ammo and everything else, right?
Once you unlock a charm, it is unlocked for use.
Yes. So that carries over.
Yes.
So, yeah, I guess it's just not carrying over everything like our traditional New Game Plus
and
RE would.
Once you find a weapon, it is permanently unlocked. So, like, you could start the game and buy Kendo's shotgun. Right
yes. Away. Yeah. So it keeps that stuff unlocked, so it still acknowledges that you beat the game. It's just not a like traditional New Game Plus.
It's a very weird system.
It is very odd. So yeah, that had me scratching my head a little bit, and I was confused, and I think the rest of the internet was kind of confused. Like, wait, what? Like, what is happening?
It also is the first time in the series that whenever you pick up a file, it permanently unlocks it.
It's always there.
If you start the game over and play, you can open up the menu right from the beginning and read all the files in the game. I like that. That's cool.
That wasn't a bad change.
No, that's a good change. As far as I'm aware, that's the first time you could ever do that.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
It doesn't work like that in RE2 or 3 Remake.
Yeah, because it starts logging them all over again when you do like even New Game Plus stuff. Mm-hmm. Like it will keep it in the challenges. Like let's say if I have 57 out of 60 in RE2 Remake, right? It will still show that like I got them. But the worst part about that game is you don't know what ones you're fucking missing because you can't pull it up and see your log of what you completed. Yep. So you have to go in and grab every file again to hope that one of them or 3 of them or 4 of them are the ones that you missed. This, like you said, is a lot more like you can understand it and it's always there and you can keep track of the shit.
And so there again, to your point, there are some changes here that are really good, and there's some ones that just leave you kind of like, why? Like, why did you why did you butcher New Game Plus? I can tell you right now, this game is not as replayable as RE4 Remake.
100% no.
Or RE4. They still have yet to make a replayability level that matches that.
Because once you beat the game on, so let's say, Standard Classic and Insanity, besides doing the challenges, you're done after the challenges.
In my opinion, if Village was worth replaying, which it's not, in my opinion, Village's replayability is better.
I would say.
If I wanted to go through that game again, it would be better than what we got this time. Why? Village already done takes away your weapons all the time. One thing this game didn't do.
Yeah, and if you wanted to play, let's say, the harder mode, you could, in theory, carry over your New Game weapons. Obviously, when we played Insanity, we did base weapons only, no infinite ammo. We could have, in theory, went to the crate, bought all the best weapons, and that was it. So they gave you that option. But it wasn't like, hey, I upgraded Kendo's shotgun all the way in my Standard Classic. I can't take that into Insanity fully upgraded. I got to rebuy it again, rebuy the upgrades. So it does,
which are more expensive.
More expensive. So that's a good point. So it does add a layer of, I guess, a challenge, but it's odd how they did it. Like you said, it feels kind of undercooked in a way.
Yeah, because in RE4, when you go professional, you don't get to bring your weapons with you.
No.
But on your next professional playthrough, you do.
Yes, it's a New Game Plus to that professional. Right.
And that's how this should have been. It should have been the same thing. And one of the things I do appreciate about Requiem, though, is the weapon choices are preference. the weapons you find for free are not necessarily worse than the weapons you can buy from the crate.
Correct.
I do wish there was a couple more weapons that you could find. You
Yeah.
know?
I like
But
what we got.
We did, I wish there was a couple more.
Like
RE4 has what, 5 handguns?
Right.
This game has 3,
Yeah.
right? Am I right?
I'm pretty sure you're right.
It's the alligator snapper, the Matilda, which is a CP point
Yeah.
unlock, and the
What the hell is the one you find in the bar?
no, I'm talking about for Leon.
Oh, for Leon.
Grace has 2, which Leon doesn't have. I also tested that. I didn't grab it, walked up to it with Leon, and he just looks at it. Doesn't even. He doesn't even examine it. He just stands there.
He's like, I got enough.
I don't need this.
Yeah.
It's not the blacktail. It's called Silencer 9.
Okay.
Is the other one. There wasn't as much weapon variety. Not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
You have trade-offs, right? Like you have your scope or rifle, your bolt action rifle has a in between, but it's more powerful. You have your semi-auto rifle, which is weaker but doesn't have to stop. I like being able to pick and choose what suits your play style. That Requiem got right.
I agree.
Now, there are still weapons after 8 playthroughs that I have not used because I kind of just stuck to what I liked, which was the kendo shotgun, the police shotgun, the bolt-action rifle, the alligator snapper. I actually don't like the Matilda.
You don't like the Matilda?
Not unless you have infinite ammo on, because there's no choice. You just go bop, 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 and your bullets, gone.
Yeah, just
gone
eats
so
up the
fast.
ammo in the true Matilda way.
You could kill something in one shot, and it goes bop, bop, wastes 2.
Well, I guess you're right too, because it's almost like how you would have your preferences or your runs for RE4 Remake with the weapons that you like. You kind of find your flow, and that's kind of what you stick with because that's what you like. It feels good, it feels snappy, it feels responsive. I think that they at least gave that a good dynamic. Like we said, Grace doesn't get as much at all, which is what we expected.
Yeah.
It was Leon's time to shine. Grace could have got like a rifle or something.
I feel like Grace was missing one more weapon type.
Yeah.
She has bottles, knives. Leon has hatchet, grenades.
Mm-hmm.
She has handguns. Leon has handguns. She has Requiem. Leon has Requiem. Leon has shotgun. Leon has machine gun.
Yep.
Leon has sniper rifle.
Yeah.
Leon has bazooka.
And yeah, she doesn't have experience with like, I guess, larger weapons, but you're still going through weapon training in the FBI. Hello?
She could have found a shotgun.
Yeah. We've all seen Silence of the Lambs.
Where was the Remington?
They all practice and shit. This is
Where
shit
was
that
the Remington? Andy?
Yeah, I understand not every FBI agent's going to be lugging around a Rambo gun, but maybe gave her like a bolt action or something, or just a shoddy too hotty or something.
I think she needed a traditional Remington, like the first one that the statue, not the one the statue's holding in RE7.
Yes.
She needed a Remington, and it would have made sense if the character center had one of them laying around. Why the hell is Chunk guarding a tactical? It's like a riot shotgun.
It is.
Why is that there?
Yeah.
I know. It's Ada's shotgun.
Is that supposed to be? I thought it was supposed to be from the guard he was eating.
He probably was, but
right.
My question is, why was that there? When Leon gets Kendo's shotgun later.
Yeah. Well, I guess they made that Leon's first shotty he picks up.
He gets 2 shotguns for free, 2 sniper rifles for free, no handguns for free.
Yeah.
He gets a scope apart for free.
It's an interesting choice.
Machine gun for free.
Yeah.
Randomly in a case that doesn't fit in. It just feels like some stuff was a little underbaked. To your point.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially when it just comes to like some of the upgrading stuff. But it didn't take away from
take away from the game.
Yeah, it didn't. It wasn't as distracting. It at least felt like my upgrades did something to my weapons, which I felt like the skill points didn't do much for me in like RE6. So I feel like as far as mainline, like obviously 8, you had those upgrades from the Duke, and they felt prominent. They felt like they made sense.
Yeah.
So same thing here, and that's the good thing. So, yeah, I mean, as far as gameplay, I think we covered everything. Parrying, I guess you want to talk about that.
Yeah.
This game relies heavily on parrying when you're in close quarters, at least when the game puts you in those situations. I mean, you can parry rockets, you can parry cars, you can parry... I mean, the fact that you can parry the car that Mr. X, it's
well,
kind of
you can't
insane.
parry the car. You do, in fact, get clapped. I tried, but you can't parry it.
Okay.
You can't parry you can parry the rocket.
Yeah, the rocket from Victor can get parried, which is
Imagine
awesome.
Leon just parries the car and it goes flipping.
Yeah. He's just that
Like
strong.
cars.
The
You can parry the plant.
The plant can get parried.
Which
obviously,
again,
the liquor tongue.
Yes,
which is
a
cool.
trophy.
Yeah.
Which again, to our point about Leon's sections kind of being like short, the plants are around and then they're gone, real fast,
Very fast.
very fast.
Faster than the spider. Because the spider was pretty quick, but on your first playthrough, no infinite ammo, it takes a while.
Yeah.
It's spongy. But being able to parry the spider, parry the stuff, you can sharpen stuff on a whim. So yeah, you don't lose your hatchet forever, like you would in RE4 Remake, where if your knife's broken, you cannot fix it until you get to a merchant or
That's just
an upgrade
reserved
screen.
for the bulletproof jacket,
That's it.
which
There's different levels.
I kind
to
of
that
felt
too.
like didn't really do anything.
No,
But
maybe 3. By the time you get to level
Yeah.
3 bulletproof, it does something.
Only
or
on
like
insanity.
melee vest or something. They didn't have a melee vest either, right?
No,
Or is the bulletproof kind of like both?
it's both. It's called padded armor or something like that.
Yeah,
It's both.
yeah.
But I like it. I think that part was great. Just, the durability being able to be recharged infinitely by yourself. I did like it. I thought it
liked
was
it.
interesting.
Yeah,
because in the moment, if you were weak with your parries and you were too off-timed or whatever, you had to waste the time, and that opens you up for more attacks.
It does.
It's actually a cooler system, I think.
Yeah.
Making that's an interesting choice. Do I have enough time before this enemy attacks me to get the sing right there?
Yeah.
That's when it kicks in and you can cancel it.
Yeah.
But I thought it was an interesting choice.
Yeah, and it was a great progression of the parry from RE4 Remake. So I think that they got that down. Obviously, we saw the beginnings of it with the dodge in RE3 Remake, and they kind of progressed that to the parry system with Leon, and now here we are. So it's pretty cool. The puzzles, John.
Yes.
Some people said they were barely in this game. Some people would argue and say they are in this game. What would you say for the puzzles?
The
right?
final puzzle was horseshit.
Yeah.
That's what I'll start with.
Okay.
It started out really great. How you were supposed to know, you're supposed to wait for 15 minutes and all that shit. I don't care about the comment. I'm ignoring it. It's bad.
Okay, so to
It's
clarify,
anticlimactic.
John is talking about the puzzle that the whole internet was trying to solve
Yeah.
before someone just data mined the fucking thing. And
Probably,
put it out there,
most
right?
likely.
So
people are saying I didn't data mine it. I don't know. I don't have proof either way.
take that puzzle out.
We're not talking about that puzzle.
The stuff in the game that you're doing,
Yeah.
the up, down, auto shit, the fucking little computer, beep, beep, boop, boop.
Yep. And
you
the
get the
hand
extra
box
stuff.
on the organ
Hand
transport box.
on the organ box.
The puzzle boxes that were based on constellations, which I thought was really, really cool.
Yes.
They're simple. They're not hard, but they're interesting.
Basically exclusive to Grace.
Yes.
And I thought they were cool.
Leon wasn't solving puzzles. He was solving problems.
Yes. That's a good point.
Detonator.
Yeah. How can I get these 3 pieces
Yeah.
across this shitty city? But no, I think...
Where can I get fuel?
yeah, how can I get fuel from 1998 that's still here?
The Stagla.
Yeah, they really just limited it to Grace. And it wasn't crazy with puzzles.
No.
But I would argue even RE7 had very minimal puzzles and people were kind of fine with it. Oh, the shadow and the light. Unlocked.
think people really overestimate how many puzzles were in the original games.
And some were a lot more annoying than others.
Like...
And even if you look at like the RE2 puzzles, original RE2, I'm
Or
talking
RE1,
OG
or
RE1,
RE3.
it was pretty simple.
Yeah.
The hardest one people remember is the water sample one, and even that, when you
sample.
learn it, you could get it down pretty quickly. To someone that's never seen it before, once you get the concept, it might take you a little bit.
They're
but
not Shakespearean.
Right.
The puzzles, they've always been an asset, not a founding brick. The puzzles in RE4 are pretty bad.
yeah, at least here they're layered
But-
a little tastefully within like the Chronic Care Center. I
Yeah.
thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. So, yeah, I enjoyed what we got, but, like, yeah, this game isn't, like, intense with puzzles or anything, but I'm not really going to, like, take any points away or, have a negative opinion on it just because, like, it had, like, lesser puzzles, like when you were with Leon when there was no I feel like what we got was fine.
Simple puzzles with interesting solutions to be found. I thought shading the journal was cool.
Yeah, I thought that was
That
cool.
was cool.
Yeah.
Looking in the pictures, having to use your eyes to look in the pictures and be like, oh, okay, this is this half,
sun, moon,
this is
star.
this half, yeah.
All those puzzles were a
The
nice
first
callback.
one's moon, sun, star, moon.
Right.
I memorized them all.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it was a cool callback to RE1.
Yeah.
Like with the crest, signs and
Where
stuff
was
like
wind?
that. I know, no wind. I know wind got shafted, right? But
I guess it's not constellation.
yeah. So I think what we got was simplistic, but good enough.
Leon's most puzzling puzzle of the puzzles in this game is like hacking down the doors on that one building that's a slant.
Yes.
And shooting the floor out.
Shooting the floor, yeah.
Which is you don't even really have to do.
No.
You know what I do now, by the way, on like run number 5?
What's that?
I walk in, shoot the glass, turn, aim right for where you're supposed to. Like there's a wall, and you're supposed to hit that thing right in front of you. I just throw a grenade, and all the floors shatter, and then I just walk up and continue.
Oh, wow.
You don't have to do any of that.
That's a good strat.
You just throw the grenade, and it's boom. They all break.
Skips to it, yeah.
And the thing falls, and all the zombies fall. Like they can't get to you anymore, so they're just walking around. Then I go up top, and I get shot at. So
yeah, no,
that's what I do.
I like that. And again, that's what I like about Grace and Leon is how you approach those certain situations and how easier they can be, but they still adds a layer to challenge, especially on harder modes. So that's what's pretty cool. So let's get into visuals and graphics.
I have one note written for this category, so I'm going to get it out of the way, and then I'm going to let you talk.
Sure.
Mine just simply says, incredible, enough said. I don't really have anything else to say.
I think it's the best looking RE Engine game to date.
Yep.
I think the dark, gritty kind of gore, the Chronic Care Center that has the 60s to 70s kind of aesthetic. It feels like it's really plucked from the original games. I love, 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 love everything about that. The lighting, the colors, the grit that this game brought, not only with the characters, but with the just design and the approach, I thought was really effective. And the graphics are incredible. Now, we played our game on a base PS5, but I will say that I have since played it on the Pro. It is the best version of this game on console. It could be even compared to a beefy PC. Yeah. And, there's a lot of people that actually were streaming the game, and a lot of people thought they were playing on PC, and they were not. The PS5 Pro is no joke, and I'm just telling this right now. Like I said, Sony's not giving us money to say this. That thing looks ridiculous, and RE4 was a step up, because when I played RE4 Remake on the Pro, I was like, holy fuck. This game is, like, for their current update with the recent Pro updates, it looks insane. Insane. And
Granted,
so it's the smoothest RE
yes,
to date on console.
And I was going to say, that also has to, a lot of credit goes to Capcom for making the game run well with the hardware given.
Absolutely.
Because Sony can give people the hardware, and they could just bumble it all up.
Whether you're doing 120 or 60, it is absolutely insane. It just visually, I mean, it's just incredible. It blew me away. So while we didn't stream it, I just want to let you know that I was able to play it and check it out. And the graphics were just amazing. PC, obviously, it speaks for itself. There is some PC stuff they do have to figure out with some of the performance stuff.
Shocker.
Shocker. Happens all the time. The
PC
VRAM,
standard.
when you get to the Raccoon City, gets a little wacky for some people.
It's a lot of jitters, too.
Yeah, depending on like what you have and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, they're going to try to fix that. And Capcom usually is pretty efficient with that. So graphics, no real complaints here. Like I said, played it on the base. Pretty much stayed at a solid 60 for the most part. But the graphics are pumping through very well with the updated consoles like your PS5 Pro. We also played this on the Switch 2. John actually just played my copy on the Switch 2 before we recorded. But I did play it on the Switch 2, and let me tell you, while the resolution is lowered, and obviously they had to do what they had to do to kind of get this thing to run, I was very impressed, and I knew the Switch 2 can do it, and I'm very happy that Capcom and Nintendo have this relationship where they feel like they can put out, 7, 8, and 9 on Switch 2, or hopefully, fingers crossed, 2 Remake, 3 Remake, 4 Remake on the Switch 2 and have it run. I think it's incredible that we get to have that. We get the controller and everything like that. And so I think the fact that they got that thing to run on the Switch 2, whether it's, docked, I played a little bit in handheld, but Low resolution, but man, it still runs, and it's not distracting. It doesn't take away from the experience as far as like, I can't play this. This is so bad. It's not like you're going back and playing something on a PS4 that does not need to be on a PS4. That's why this game is not on a PS4. It is on a Switch 2 for a reason. Yeah. Switch 2 just does it can run stuff a lot better than the Switch 1. It's not streaming games. You can play it natively, and I was a big fan of that. So I think as far as the visuals and the graphics, well done, Capcom. Well done on the RE engine. If this is the optimization, fucking thumbs up. And if this is the last main RE game that we get in the RE engine, I'm excited to see what the Rex engine has in store. Maybe we'll be on RE engine for a little bit more. This gen will keep going for a little bit, but we shall see what they do for the next main line. I'm sure the next remake will be in RE engine, but they keep adjusting it. They keep making this thing look better and better. So whatever you guys are doing, thumbs up to you guys over there on the visuals and the graphics. Just absolutely phenomenal. And I enjoyed it.
The Switch version, just a little bit of impressions for me. I wouldn't reach for it when I have my PS5 right there.
Of course, yeah.
But handheld mode, from what I have seen, really doesn't seem like it's all that of a loss, because you're on a smaller screen. Playing on your 55-inch TV, yeah, it does. I could see how somebody could look at that and be like, oh, it's dog shit. But if a Switch is all you have, or if you're playing handheld in bed or whatever, I think they did a fantastic job. I think it still looks good. Textures, but who cares?
It seems like for consoles,
it's there
Switch
for an
was
option.
The second most sold next to
For
PlayStation,
sure.
Right?
For sure, because the Switch 2 is selling, despite what people think.
Switch 2 is cleaning
Switch
house.
2 is cleaning up, brother.
Yeah, and it's deserved, because
Yes.
they've done a great job with this machine. It's the most fun I've had on a machine all gen.
Yeah.
Okay, like, I'm serious. PS5 Pro obviously visually blows all these consoles out of the water, obviously.
Yes.
Because it's the newest piece of hardware on the market.
Yes.
Right, and that came just before Switch 2, but as far as power, it's the newest machine on the market. But as far as like their marketing strategy and how Nintendo has had a release for every month and had something coming out, They had a great rollout of the machine. I'm so happy to see Capcom and RE with Nintendo again. I love the amiibos. I like the controller. Like, some of it looks goofy, I know, but it's just like seeing it.
It's good to see it. Yeah. And, shout out to Nintendo. A lot of people are crediting Pokopia, which Pokemon Animal Crossing. I love the fucking game. I'm not going to sit here and talk about it. But Requiem and then Pokopia,
top two selling games on the store.
Top two selling games right now. In the last 2 days, Nintendo's stocks have gone up 15%. Requiem probably has something to do with that. Pokopia probably has more to do with that.
Sure,
because you could buy it on PlayStation.
It's not as niche as RE either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have multiple options. Pokopia you can only buy on Switch. But I've been hearing people that I've talked to or I've read online that are saying, like, that work at these brick and mortar stores, since Requiem and Pokopia have come out, they're selling 3, 4, 5 times more Switches a day. Like, I used to grab 2 out of the case. Now I'm grabbing 10.
And some people were just waiting for that, like, kick
launch
to get
title.
That Switch too, right? Like, whether it could have been Metroid for you. It could have been, like John said, a Pokemon game. Like, whatever the case may be, some people see that one thing and are like, I'm in. I'm getting that right now. Give me the console and the game right now. Exactly. Some people are into that shit, and they waited.
It's tough. Like, Metroid was a good game, I'm sure. I haven't played it yet.
I haven't played it either. But
it's a tough sell. It's not a console seller, in my opinion. Bro, the last game was like almost 20 years ago.
Yeah. They scrapped it and started again because they didn't like what they saw.
There are people who were born and are now adults who don't even know what Metroid is.
That's true.
Metroid Dread came out, sure. They probably saw that and they were like, oh, this is cool. But you can jump into a Metroid Dread a lot more. That 4 is intimidating.
Yeah.
That's why we're called Resident Evil Requiem, not Resident Evil 9, because it's intimidating, right? Although I would say that this story probably should play the other ones too.
Absolutely.
They always wanted to be standalone. 7 was standalone.
Yes.
You could play 7 and not anything else and be fine.
It felt like a soft reboot, which was the intention.
Yeah. Requiem feels like the anti-boot. It's like, we're not soft rebooting. We're bringing back all the old heads. And we're doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
So, not to get on a Nintendo tangent, but you're right. They do deserve a lot of credit for making this run. And they've been playing nice with Nintendo since the Switch.
They have. And
after the Wii U fiasco where they cut everybody off, basically.
They did, yeah.
Now they're like, and now they're even doing something better, which I'm sure on Game Complainers you guys will talk about.
Mm-hmm.
That's another show Anthony does with his friend Perry.
Yes.
And Frank. Nintendo's just recently had an interview where they kind of said, like, hey, we're not giving kits out because we don't want the schmucks. We want quality. So your Capcoms and your Squares and your CD Projekt Reds, and that's why they're on the console. And your Hentai Ichi Girl 3 is not.
Yes. They're trying to clean that up.
They're trying to clean up the store. They're trying to clean up the slop. So they're being more selective instead of doing the Wii U strategy, which is goodbye. Goodbye, everybody.
Peace out.
Goodbye. We would not like your game on our console.
Basically.
They're doing the opposite, where now they're actually they're scrutinizing more and they're picking and choosing what they want. Capcom, RE1, 2, 3, Dino Crisis 1 and 2 on the Switch, please. Just put them there.
Please.
Just put them on there.
Put them on there, man. Yeah, no, I agree, man, and hopefully this Nintendo and Capcom thing continues for the next RE game and the next remake and stuff like that.
My talk here wasn't even really about them. It was more about the fact I appreciate
Nintendo,
that they are putting it on Nintendo.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see it cleaned up a little bit more. Just because it can doesn't mean it should. So I hope that Requiem is not the only game we get.
No, I mean Pragmata, I played the demo on Switch 2. That actually ran pretty damn well, even given like the lower resolution. Like they're getting it, they're making it work. I don't know. I don't think Onimusha is coming out on the Switch 2 as of yet. Or the new Onimusha.
Yeah,
but
Onimusha, Way of the Warrior. Or
Way of the Warrior. I'm not
Way
sure
of the Sword.
If that Way of the Sword. Yeah, I'm not sure if that is coming out on Switch 2. But RE9 Pragmata, it's a pretty good fucking start. Especially because the Pragmata demo, a game they actually put a demo out for. Wow, we could try a game out. Holy crap! And check out the performance. Obviously, you play it on a PS5 Pro. It runs fucking great. You run on the Switch 2. It looks good. I mean, it's definitely lower down resolution. But it runs, man, and it's playable. This is going to be a big one. The characters. Okay. Obviously, we're still going to talk about the story kind of in a separate thing, but I just kind of want to go through the general list of characters. If I forget anybody, John, let me know.
Sure.
But just kind of like run through the characters, and we'll kind of give our thoughts on how they were handled in this game. Okay, so first up is Leon. Obviously, he's done this a million times before, so him being back in this game was something they kept under wraps for obvious reasons. They wanted to keep this close to the vest until Game Awards last year.
Yeah.
And we knew that he was going to sell a fuck ton of copies being in this game, but this game was going to sell anyway. But he kind of put the cherry on top. Leon is your favorite character, so I wanted to ask you first, and then I'll go. Is like, how do you feel like they really handled him in this game? Honestly, as far as like progressing his character, as far as him feeling like Leon, obviously you have Nick coming back reprising his role, but how did you feel about like the natural progression with Leon, giving his sickness in this game and everything he goes through?
So I want to first say about Nick's performance, all mocap performances were great. Vocal performances were great.
Oh yeah.
I personally am not a fan of deep voice Leon. I like Leon to be sounding more like RE2 original, RE2 remake Leon. But he was also sick in this game. So there's a reason why he could have been doing that. I thought RE4 Leon was also not that bad. That's a personal taste. That's not a criticism. His vocal performance was great. Just want to get that out of the way. There were some comments that thought I was like hating on him and stuff. I'm not. With that being said, as a character, I thought Leon was handled decently. I'm glad he's not dead. I thought that if they were going to kill him, it would have been pretty shitty. The bad ending is rushed and pathetic.
Yes, doesn't even count as an ending, really.
No, they even try to reverse it as soon as you pick it.
Yeah,
I really don't.
Screen, yeah.
I really don't even think like. I'm of the opinion it was wasted development time. They shouldn't have even bothered. They should have just had the regular ending.
So you think if they were to do his death, they should have just stuck to it and stuck to their guns instead of making it like a half-assed thing?
No, I'm not even talking about that. I'm just saying they shouldn't have even did multiple endings. They should have just had a better way of getting Grace the idea to not destroy it against Leon, and maybe have like Leon try to stop her from releasing it.
Well, what if they did it in a way that like they really put effort into it and he did die? Would that have pissed you off?
As long as it was done correctly, no.
Okay.
And correctly is doesn't mean I wouldn't be sad.
Of course. That's a beloved character going
yeah.
away forever.
But
it's a huge deal.
If it was done properly and he went out on his own terms, I think that I'd be fine with it. Because realistically, how many more Leon games are we going to get? He's 49.
Do you think it was a cop-out that they made his condition what it was for it to just be like, all right, I'm back? Like, do you think that was a cop-out?
No. I think it's very Resident Evil. Honestly.
It's very much what our heroes have always done. They've always beat the odds, right? They always come through.
Leon was ready to die. And sometimes when you're ready to die, how do you bring him back from that point? You let the new character do it. And I thought Grace did it very well. I thought her putting the pieces together and figuring out that Elpis was a cure, was an antiviral, instead of that was really nice. Some of this is kind of going into story a little bit, but
it kind of has to with some of the character dynamics we're talking about. But
yeah, I thought Leon was done really well. I think Leon needed more development time. I think he needed more screen time. And this, again, is going to be a reoccurring theme through this show, because I feel like everything pace-wise is just a little too fast.
On Leon's side or both?
Both.
Okay.
On everything.
Just in general.
Zeno, Victor, Leon.
Okay.
Maybe not Grace as much.
I was going to say, if anything,
she
she feels like she was the best handled.
She's probably the best handled.
Development-wise. Okay.
I just feel like Leon kind of, and Sherry even, I feel like Sherry needed more calls.
I agree.
She needed to talk more.
I liked every time they were on a call together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wish that was kind of amped up a little bit more, because it is kind of, I mean, they escaped the city together, and now they're both sick with the same thing. I feel like...
They were also in China together?
Yeah, they were in China together with RE6, so like this is the first time we've seen her since RE6 in the mainline story progressing. She's voiced by the same actress. She looks really good in the RE engine. I just wish that we had more of that dynamic with the calls, I guess, if that makes sense. But the calls are great. But yeah, he doesn't call her Sherry until like 3 hours into the game,
Sherry,
4 hours into the game. Me. Yeah. You're like, oh, it's Sherry, which again, we kind of predicted, especially because her voice actress sounded very similar. So
if you put on the subtitles right from the beginning,
it just says Sherry.
No,
it doesn't.
No, it says woman on the trans receiver.
Wow.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
Woman on the radio call. It says something on the headset or something.
Yeah.
It doesn't say Sherry until he says Sherry.
I did not notice that.
I thought that was funny. I tried it to see what it would say.
They said no.
No,
not allowed to
know.
Man, I mean, I kind of echo your thoughts a little bit with Leon. I think, it would have been cool to see him just a little bit more. But at the same time, I didn't mind what they did with him going back to Raccoon City and having those emotional moments, like with Kendo's remains and, losing people. He really did sell the fact that he's had, all these years, nearly 30 years of this stuff bearing down on him. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of felt like a darker Leon, and it felt convincing. It's one thing if we kind of saw Nick kind of play him in this darker way and being sick and being, really worn down, and it didn't make sense, but it's almost just like, I've let down so many people and I've lost so many people, and like I just don't want to do this again. If I'm going to save somebody, it's going to be Grace, or I'm just going to go out like a badass and just do what I can. And so the fact that he was fighting to the very end, even when he was, past stage 3, into stage 4, basically fucking RCS, Raccoon City Syndrome, basically on death's door, he kept fighting like a badass, as Leon would. So I think that some of his actions definitely felt like, okay, this is something that Leon would do.
And that's my point, is that everything we got is good. I just think we needed more.
Just tune it up a little bit.
More agony, more darkness, because it kind of makes it feel like
it was for nothing once he gets cured. Not
even that. It's not. I have no problem with him with the antiviral. I actually think that's a perfect moment. Because Leon, the first thing Leon says is, "What the fuck happened?" Like, what happened?
Yeah.
Leon, that was my favorite. That's honestly like my favorite part of the whole game.
Leon, get up.
Leon, get the fuck up.
I need you now.
Like, I can't save you.
Yeah.
Like, Leon, everything's falling apart. Get the fuck up.
And
Like,
people noticed that he also
great...
kind of like looked younger too after he took it. It's almost like he was, I mean, he still looks aged, but like, it's almost like it was already, and that's why like his back's kind of hunched too. Like it almost feels like he was like sinking into himself.
He was crippled.
Yeah.
Like he was crippling.
Yeah.
And if you notice at the end of the game after he's cured,
he's like up, like his posture.
He's standing normal again. And that's why he looks like a goon.
Yeah.
Grace, what happened?
Yeah, what's going on?
I make my voice deep.
But yeah, I like what they did with Leon.
Yeah.
Man.
I thought Leon was fine. I like his humor in this game a lot. I think his character's written very well. I do think there is a little parody between him on his knees at Kendo, S.T.A.R.S skeleton, saying he'll never let it happen again, but then letting the nurse at the beginning get absolutely fucking taken from behind by a chainsaw.
Yeah.
Leon's not dumb. He obviously can see this guy has a chainsaw.
Yeah, but it just happens.
But he just, and he's just like...
Yeah, let me kick this stool in you and make it, yeah.
Like, I get what people are saying. Like, Leon had an entire game's worth of time to save her. He had a whole dial tone.
He could have pulled her back and thrown her
did
across the room
anything.
just to like get her away.
He could have kicked her into him.
Yeah. As a defense strategy.
And then just like,
yeah,
should have worn a helmet.
Oh.
I still think it would have been so funny if she got chainsawed, fell on the ground, and he goes, women. That would have been, someone's got to mod that. That would be so funny. No, but I do feel like there's a little bit of parody in the writing, and this comes back to the same point of like, I just feel like some things were half-baked, or 3/4 of the way baked. It does really feel, you feel the effect in this game. I should probably save this till later, but you feel what Nakanishi meant when he was kind of like, oh yeah, this went through several reworks. I feel it. I feel like we could have gotten more Victor. I feel like Xeno is such a cool concept that literally goes absolutely nowhere.
Mm-hmm. And we'll get into them.
We'll get into that soon. Yeah. But yes, overall, I'm happy with what we got for Leon. I would have liked to see a little bit more. I really love the save room theme playing when he's talking to Grace.
Yes.
In the
all the remix
laboratory.
Soundtrack, the whole soundtrack is fucking phenomenal.
Yes. One of the parallels I really love is when Leon is talking to Ada in RE2 Remake. And he says, people like him, people like them, that's why I joined the Force. Count me in. Whatever it takes. I want to save the city. Count me in, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes, count me in.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I think he says like, whatever it takes, count me in. And there is a moment where Leon's like, no, you're not. You're not coming with me. And Grace says, I'm tired of having regrets. Whatever it takes, count me in.
Mm.
And that is a very particular choice because he sees he's himself in her.
That's a good point.
In that moment.
Yeah.
And whoever did that, that is the kind of writing we want to see.
Things that call back and connect and
you
progress
see his
a character.
Face soften.
Yeah.
And then he's like, but you promised me if anything happens to me,
you're going to help.
You're going to end this.
Yeah. You're going to help end this. Yeah, no, that's a good point, man.
So I really like that. And I feel like the writing team was absolutely fire in some places. And then in other places, it just feels like maybe what they wrote didn't all get put in the game.
Could have just been cut for time.
Cut for development time, cut for DLC. I don't want to get into that theory crafting yet. We're going to talk about the DLC at the end of the show. Potential, like what we want to see and stuff. But yeah, I feel the same way about, the rest of the characters for the most part. We can get into some nuances after, you move on, but I just feel like what we got was okay. And it's great. Everything there is great. Like Victor is great. Grace is great. Leon's great. We'll obviously touch on more of them. But a little bit more just a little bit more, like 15, 20% more. Maybe not 20%, maybe 10% more. And it would have been legendary. And I just feel like it comes up just a tad bit short on the characters feeling like they really got their build-ups and payoffs.
Yeah.
But Leon has a little bit of a cheat code because he's a character that we've been watching and playing as for 30 years.
So he has all that history.
And you as the player are keeping that in mind. But if you're a new player and this is your first game, I'm curious. Did Leon land for you?
Yeah.
I don't know if he would.
If you're somebody that only played 7, 8, and 9.
Oh, this is just a grizzled guy who...
Right. Or maybe if you played 4 Remake as like a caveat to that, like an addition, you know. But yeah, I mean, I think with Leon, they, like you said, maybe they could have done a little bit more.
Perfect example. If you played 2 Remake, 4 Remake, and this game, I don't know if this lands. If you've played 2 Remake, 4 Remake, this game, and have seen Vendetta, Death Island, Degeneration.
You mean as like a Leon character?
As Leon's entire journey through the history of this franchise, I think it lands a little better.
It gives you just more context.
When I was a kid, I never thought my life would turn out this way, right? Like those kind of monologues that you get in those movies, they help this Leon make more sense. And 6, you have to play 6 because you need to know where Leon's at in 6.
That's true.
That's the last time he is in this before Death Island.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, you need to know where he's at.
Yeah, that's true.
And I would argue the Leon that's in Death Island is not the Leon in 6. That is, like, the Leon that people remember from 4.
Yeah.
But
Vendetta
also kind
felt
of goofy.
More like 6 Leon a little bit.
Yeah.
Like post RE6 Leon dealing with that, and he's drinking, and he's hit the wall that Chris hit in 6. So
yeah, and
it's
somehow
like,
Chris is criticizing him for hitting the same thing he did.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, maybe you guys all have that in common. You guys just all deal with shit for years on end, and it does affect your mental stability.
0.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You were wondering how many there were. She's like, what the fuck?
What the hell? Grace Ashcroft.
Beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful character. Amazing actress.
Amazing voice casting.
Amazing voice casting. She recorded her lines in the dark and stuff to intensify the experience. FBI adopted daughter of Alyssa Ashcroft. Just very well done. Love her as a new character.
Love her.
Love her better than Ethan even. So I think more development. We can actually see her face. I have a connection because of that. I can actually see her and see what she's emoting and see the emotion she's going through while dealing with these horrors for the first time. Just very well done. And just, shout out to Capcom for just keeping a consistent flow with her character throughout. She never felt annoying. Her parts never felt annoying. She had a purpose. She had a motivation. She just didn't know all the answers. And it got her into some crazy situations. But you know what? I think they did a great job with Grace. And it just felt refreshing, if that makes sense. As a new character, she felt refreshing.
She feels like the most complete new addition to the story, to the franchise. If I'm being generous, since Piers and RE6.
Okay.
But really, to me, she feels like the most well-liked, interesting, I want to see her again character since Ashley in RE4. Helena, forgettable. Her sister, naked.
Yeah. That's basically what happened.
Like,
there.
I just, Simmons, Looney Tunes.
Naked.
Yeah, naked.
Yeah.
Like, Carla, clone.
Naked. RE6 had a lot of naked things in it.
Yeah, I just feel like there's just Mia belongs in jail. Like I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I just feel like she's the most interesting character since Jake, a dildo.
Yeah.
Literally an emotionless fucking hack. Like, what a terrible character.
I didn't hate Jake, but he wasn't really developed that
right,
much.
I'm thinking of Johann Roberts' Wesker. Sorry.
Yeah, that's a dildo, I guess. But...
I'm just taking the piss, guys. No, but she feels like the most interesting new character, like fresh character. And unlike the best character before her, Piers, she doesn't die.
That's true. She doesn't die.
So
she definitely doesn't die.
Anthony.
Oh yeah. He was naked in that scene.
They're all naked.
They're all naked. Oh, yeah, no.
Her sister naked.
Oh, but
who
great.
else was there?
I think we listed off all the naked people. There was
Everybody in six, though.
yeah,
There's a Sheva.
naked.
Okay. She's naked in
the tribal outfit.
In the tribal outfit.
She's half naked.
But Sheva suffers from the same thing that Hannigan. She suffers from the same thing that like Piers suffers from, where she's one and done, and she didn't really have that much development time on screen.
Yeah, it was very.
She could
in
have
and
been.
out.
We've talked about this before. It'd be really nice if in RE5 remake Sheva got more screen time, got a little bit more personal with her backstory. Maybe got her own unique boss fight with Cassella. Something that's like more targeted towards her. She kind of really does feel like a character that was only put in the game because of the racist backlash.
That's what some people feel.
And-
I still think she
and
stands out on her
Sheva-
own, regardless of that, though. Personally,
That's and you can have that opinion. I'm not gonna argue about it. I'm just saying, like, I feel like Sheva suffers from that era of RE where if you weren't playing as her, I don't think she's very interesting. There's not enough there. And then she's given the trigger to kill Wesker. Like,
yeah, should have been Jill in that.
yeah, I just don't. I feel like Sheva and Josh would be a really good duo to revisit in like a Rev 3. That would be really cool.
Yeah, or that whole division of BSAA
Yeah.
Africa, you know. But yeah, man, I definitely really liked Grace, and I think she was refreshing. I think you feel the same way.
I do.
Yeah, Sherry is back in here. Obviously, radio only.
Yeah.
You know, she's kind of behind the scenes in this one, in the shadows, as she says, and it's just cool to see her. I wish like we saw her more, but you know, like we've been saying, DLC, it's potential we see her more.
Yeah,
out
she's
there.
got a dose. She
Right.
could be back in
She
action.
will be
Maybe
cured.
Leon and her are part of the DSO still in the DLC.
There's a lot of questions, right? Like whether or not like certain characters that we know and love that should have Raccoon City Syndrome, if they even have it, we assumed because of the trailer with her wearing the glove that she's hiding, you know, and we have the scene with her in the bathroom and
And
she
we got
pulls
a
off
lot
the glove and
of
stuff.
comments about how, like, why would you assume that? Just because she has a glove? Bruh, she's in an office wearing a shiny glove, typing on a keyboard. She's got it.
She's got it. Yeah.
And we were right.
Yeah. And
Some people love when I say that. We were right.
Yeah, we were right. You guys just stroke your own ego.
Yeah, I'm
you
stroking
son of a
something
bitch.
under the desk right
Yeah.
now.
Well, we exactly know, like, again, what characters in this would make sense. And if it was Ashley, yeah, that would have been cool.
No,
but,
that
like,
was what
Sherry
I was
makes
gonna-
more sense, right? 'Cause
Well, what
it's
I was
like-
going to say was because she didn't really have a whole lot of dialogue, she could have been Hunnigan, and I don't really think anything would have changed.
It was just nice to see her.
Yeah, it was
I
just
think.
nice to see her.
Yeah.
And I hope that it does lead to DLC.
I hope so. And I guess just seeing someone else with Raccoon City Syndrome brings in more of like, okay, Chris would definitely have it. These other people should have it if the story is lining where it's lining. Obviously, they could just say, well, everyone got Elpis that needed it by the next game, so let's not talk about that. They could easily do that. But again, what this next story expansion does, I guess we'll see.
And that's the other thing, too. People were like, oh, Chris can't have it because
He wasn't in the city during those days.
No, because Chris couldn't have it because he's alive in the end of Village's Shadow of Rose and all this shit.
Oh, the plot armor.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's the problem.
If he got Elpis, then he's fine.
But that's the problem with time jumping, Capcom. Don't do it.
Chris could be inflicted by RCS, and that's why he's not with his men when he sends them to rescue them at the end of the game.
And even Leon's like, oh, like, I wonder who knows where he's at kind of thing. Like,
it would be a lot better if Chris wasn't late to the party.
Yeah. Which is interesting, though, that Leon doesn't think, like, he could also have it, so maybe that's what, like, he didn't, like, mention that. It wasn't, like, a thing, and maybe they did that on purpose, but, like,
Yeah.
you would think he would like light bulb would go off, like Claire, Chris. I hope they're okay.
Yeah.
But they're not really. Only Chris is mentioned by name. We don't even get a Claire mention in this. So
No, just a charm.
yeah,
That
just a
increases
charm.
penetration.
Capcom, you
Dirty dogs.
dirty dogs. You knew what you were doing. What about Victor Gideon? Because he's one of our villains, basically the main villain, I would argue.
Yeah.
And I think that him being a former T-Virus researcher, Spencer being his master, I loved what they did with Victor Gideon. He's probably one of my favorite like mainline game villains in quite a while. I just wish he had a little bit more screen time on the back end of the game, kind of like what we're saying.
Me too.
But I love his design. I love his acting. I love his motivation.
His acting is superb. Maybe the second or first best, actually, behind Grace.
Yeah, in this game, he sold it very well. His interaction with Leon, with Grace, with other characters, just the way he acted, it feels very much like he was a lot more solid, had a solid presence early on.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the second half, again, like, yes, you damage him in the motorcycle bike and he disappears. So that gives him that, like, time to, like, not be there. But I just wish that, like, we just saw more than just that.
He just shows up with an arm.
Yeah.
With his strong hand.
Yeah. And it's like, and then
I wish you fought him. He needed a second boss fight.
yeah. And like the Nemesis thing at the end, the transformation, I wasn't like crazy about it. It was cool, but it kind of just seemed like just thrown in.
There wasn't as much buildup.
Yeah. Like the first form I actually like better, even though, yes, you can knock him with the rocket and insta-kill, or, the section might not seem that long. But I liked the whole, like, the charge up and the jumping around, and, like, you had that little circle rotation with him. I didn't mind that. Like, the Nemi fight, Gamma, right?
Nemesis Gamma.
I didn't think that was, like, a really, like, terrible design, very reminiscent to RE3 Remake. But it just kind of felt like an afterthought. But it was cool to see, I guess, a Nemesis in here. It's not the Nemesis that we know, but it's just
It's
a
not
Nemesis.
the any alpha parasite.
Right, because they show you, read the files, and they show you how much these BOWs are worth and how much they're being sold for, and, like, how much liquors cost and all this stuff. So I like that we got the backstory of, like, these things are still being manufactured and developed for these weapons, and that's why they're still around. But yeah, I liked Victor Gideon basically up until the very end. I mean, he was still great. I just wish we got a little bit more of him. So
I do too. I do like some of the callbacks that they do, kind of reminisce with Victor a little bit. He is a nemesis. That's why he's got the scar, right? I felt like that was really underdeveloped. Like, why weren't we seeing his nemesising in the game until the very, very, very end?
yeah, it's almost like he triggered it himself. But it's like if he was already getting affected by Raccoon City Syndrome, like everyone else.
Well, he probably wasn't.
He wasn't, right?
Yeah, he wasn't. We thought he was, but he was actually a nemesis. And that explains why he's so damn tall, because he's a tyrant. He is this game's tyrant, even though they have another tyrant.
Yes, they do.
But I feel like we should have fought him in more.
They didn't really explain the snake tongue. They didn't explain anything.
No,
with
none of the
snake.
snake. It was all motif just because he's a medical researcher, I guess.
I guess, yeah.
However, one little detail, like I said, they pay attention to a lot of small things, like Leon reloading the Requiem. Does he use the speed reloader, or does he go bullet by bullet? Well, it depends on which more realistic, right? There's attention to detail here. If you change costumes and Leon pulls his glove off and he doesn't have a glove on, he doesn't pull it off.
No.
In Raccoon City, when you're in the police station, if you go up to the right or to the left, you get a different angle of the cutscene.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of attention to detail. And one thing I thought was interesting is, as a nemesis, he's just whipping rocket launchers out. And that's a cool detail.
That is a cool detail, yeah.
He's just like...
Yeah, whether he's on the bike or he's just right in front of you.
He's just
like,
whipping them out.
Must pull out the rocket launcher, like, no matter what.
And that's cool.
That is cool. It's a little cool detail that you realize when you play it back a second time, and you're like, oh, okay, I get where they were going with this. And Leon's never fought a nemesis, so it's cool to see
He
him.
identified it right away.
He knew it, yeah.
So was it because we read the file? Not that he says it regardless if you read the file.
Exactly.
But is it
right.
because he read the file and they went with that knowledge, or is it because of Jill's report
right
from Raccoon City? Is it because of this? What is it from? Well, he probably has the lowdown on all of the BOWs on market because that's what his job is.
Yeah, you would hope that he's familiar with the things that he was involved in, and not involved in, that all circle back to the same place, right?
I'm going to put you on the spot, Anthony.
Okay.
Any alpha parasite.
Any alpha
parasite. That's what Nemesis from RE3 had. What other bioweapon had the any alpha parasite in it? It's in Lisa. Trevor.
Lisa, okay. Okay.
So they used the any alpha parasite for those two. And Lisa Trevor also had the T and the G in her. She was kind of just like, we're going to stick her with whatever
a concoction of
we
both.
can. Like, They probably would have stuck her with the C virus if they could have.
So Lisa and Nemi have that same parasite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool. And that's why I think, like, if they ever did Lisa in the future, they'll probably connect all that stuff. Again, still keep that canon. Keep that connection.
Well, I wonder if how much they're going to expand upon that in a potential remake for the first game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because even in remake, she's not really... But what does Marie do? She collects things like Lisa did, right? She was a child, and we see like these child infected, they collect things. They have
the
like
dolls.
Interesting...
Like shrines of things.
Yeah, shrines of things. And it makes me wonder if, does the Nemesis Gamma have more to do with the story than they told us?
They could make it a bigger deal.
They could with DLC, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's my prediction. I'm just saying it's possible.
It's very possible.
Because why was Marie so regenerative?
Yeah, and light was her weakness, like straight up weakness. Like there was no way to fully damage her.
Leeches.
Like the leeches, right? Yeah. So that could be something they work into the leeches in Zero remake, potentially. Yeah, there's a lot of things that, and we're going to get into that when I get the story, that this game does, and what it undoes, and what it unravels, and what it completely stamps out. Yeah. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, I think Victor Gideon overall was pretty cool. If they connect the Nemesis Gamma to more stuff, that would be cool as well. Xeno. Everyone's calling him Timu Wesker. That's his name on the RE space. I just think that he's a Silver Fox Wesker clone that smokes cigarettes and has a cross earring that is really cool, but is very undercooked and underutilized. And this is, of course, before any DLC, but I will say this. Why even have him in there in the first place other than just to be like, hey, look, it's Wesker. He's back, but he's not really back. And now we get Leon to verse Wesker in some way, which is
unplayable
cool.
way.
An unplayable way.
Which is stupid.
That's what I'm saying, is undercooked as in he should have had a fight. If you're going to have Leon versus Wesker, again, the cutscene was cool because Leon's never seen shit like that at that speed before. So that's a first time for him. But how cool would it have been if we actually played that and had to like do some kind of damage to him in a way that only Leon could do, even though he was regenerative. And he, you see his hand come back and everything like that once it gets sliced and stuff like that. It's before he gets cured. He can't regenerate, or so we think.
I'll tell you what they could have did. I would have cut the hunk fight entirely. I think it was fan servicey and stupid.
Okay. Damn. Okay. Yeah,
I just think it's
straight up.
I just think it's stupid. Like you're bringing a character back that people really want just to kill him, or to seemingly kill him, call him the commander. No clip his body away and give fans copium that he's living. Which
is what's been going on for the past 2 weeks.
Even though he's like 70 years old probably at this point. I don't know how old he is
60s,
actually.
I think. Actually,
60s
right?
probably, yeah. He's nearly 70.
Yeah, he's up there.
He's up there.
Has RCS.
Has RCS and all that's really cool. I think when he got the cure, because he was infected at a higher level, and it takes time to reverse, or the RCS would get reversed, but his powers got diminished. I think what they could have done was, because Leon didn't have the virus as long, he just had the antibody resistance. She could have cured Leon, and he could have be cured of RCS. Cured the Xeno. Xeno could have been cured of RCS, and his powers could have been diminished as they're disappearing. And then Leon, a healthy Leon, would stand up, still a little shaken, but would stand up and fight a consistently getting weaker Xeno. And then you still could have had Gideon come in and finish him off or whatever. You could have still did that if you wanted to. That whole thing just feels like a waste. The only way, that should have been the melee fight. It should have been Leon hatcheting and punching and kicking and beating the shit out of Xeno.
Yeah.
And Xeno beating the shit out of him, like, as the last stand, like, this is not what we intended, but I have to crawl back to the family and figure things out from here.
Gideon saying you're nothing but an imitation.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only thing that we
Imitation
heard.
doesn't mean clone.
Right.
Because wouldn't he just say you're nothing but a clone?
Right. And we know he's in the
Or a
connections.
copy?
Right. A copy.
Imitation means something different to me than copy. There's a word choice there. Maybe Webster, they're the same definition. But when you say you're imitating me, you know, that feels more to me like you were turned into Wesker by this blood memory thing. Maybe he's not a Wesker. Maybe he's just some guy who has his own quirks, like smoking cigarettes and wearing one earring.
But why does he have Raccoon City syndrome?
That's the question.
That's another question.
Is it because he's got the T virus in him?
Right. These are a lot of things that felt a little rushed and convoluted towards the end of the game.
Yes.
That we're going to definitely talk about as we dive deeper in the story. But I think Xeno, you're right, man. I think there's so much they could have done.
So cool.
His design is cool. And his actor is the same gentleman who did Wesker in RE4 Remake. Probably intentional, right? But I still think that he was acted very well, and you saw his motivation.
Very intentional, because they got Silverstein back for Hunk, too.
Absolutely. So
Keith Silverstein or
yeah.
Silverstein or something like that.
Yeah, I think that was all intentional, and they do that shit all the time. And I think, you know, while Xeno is cool in nature, it just had a very abrupt exit. Obviously, we want to see more, so we're not saying that this expansion might not show more, but it might not. And if it doesn't,
it was wasted potential.
It was wasted potential. So
the only thing that they could do this for, and I would forgive them, is if in RE10 we find out that the new threat is Wesker's B through X or Y.
Like a whole
we had
slew
Albert
of
and
Wesker.
Xeno, but there's 24 other letters in the alphabet, and fucking Brian Wesker's coming for you. Brian Wesker, it's Fat Wesker.
Yeah.
Like if there's like if they do that and now there's all these Wesker backups that Alex was working on, or Wesker backed himself up, the connections backed himself
that's
up.
Another thing we don't know about Alex, we don't know about, like, as far as like continuing from Rev 2 with Natalia. It's like there's a lot of stuff that's just been, you wonder if they're circling back to certain things or why they're ignoring certain things. And I think with Xeno, it kind of needs to be. It should be explained.
It should be.
It should be. So our fingers are crossed with that. Obviously, our opinion can change on him. But again, really liked his design, really like his acting. We had Emily, who was the blind character that we saw in one of the last trailers, the fourth trailer. And she was obviously a test subject of the Chronic Care Center, along with several other kids that were also experimented on in the orphanage. So
yeah.
It's like an extension of that, basically.
Yeah, because when, Ark was essentially wiped off the face of the planet, it makes you kind of wonder why these two in particular were moved to the Chronic Care Center. Mm-hmm. Because Ark already was housing all these experiments. So if Ark was there and Gideon knows that Ark is there, it brings up the question of why they were even there. Like, why was Marie and Emily, sorry. Mm-hmm. Why were they there? Were they the last two? Is that why? Were there no babies when Leon's limping through Ark? Because you see the babies in the flashback, but are the pods empty? It's hard to tell. We don't really see them, We just see like a very foggy thing. Like, are the babies in comatose until they're called upon? Is that why there's only those two? And they kind of just take them out of the Ark facility and move them to the Chronic Care Center?
Yeah. I don't know.
It's interesting.
Yeah, and the way that they, again, kind of made Emily this, this character that, I guess, in a way, it's almost like someone that, Grace took in very much like how Alyssa, adopted Grace specifically with no relation, just from Spencer. So almost in a way, like Emily served as like her motivation, to try to get to the bottom of it when, she finds out, oh shit, she's turned, and Leon, what she thinks Leon, kills her, but he doesn't shoot any of her, vital organs, and she survives ultimately. But I think she is like,
despite the fact he very clearly shoots the heart.
Yeah, it doesn't really. The game is just kind of, they're like, all right, you just got to believe us here. But yeah, Emily is someone that I think makes Grace fight to the end, really, because even though she thinks that she's dead, I think that gave her enough reason to try to make up for the mistakes, like oh, I did this again, I've messed up again. She keeps putting a lot of blame on herself throughout this whole process, you know what I mean? So I think Emily kind of serves as that candle, so to speak, for her towards the end, and we obviously know the outcome, and she gets cured of her blindness from Elpis. But I really did enjoy Emily. She's only utilized in the game itself, like in some sections from point A to point B. Like she obviously can only do so much, but she's able to help her actually escape doing the puzzle, so she's able to, you could set her down, clear out a room, you bring her in, and she helps you get one of the pieces to get out of the chronic care center.
The quartz cubes or whatever.
Yeah, so the 3 cubes. The last one, of course, when you're about to grab it, she gets dragged into the basement. You got to do that whole basement section,
which I believe is the star one, the star quartz.
Yeah, so that's the last one, and they definitely made that one a journey to get through. But once you get out, she's able to escape with her, and they meet fellow Harry. Pilot Harry, we thought was Jeff Shine. It's not.
It's not.
The one line does sound like Jeff Shine, but it's
not
him.
It's similar.
Yeah, so we were kind of joking about
Same
that
person.
and laughing. Same person.
Yeah.
And very short-lived, but he tried his best. But I don't think taking off with that many zombies on your windshield is really productive, because then you get flown into a tree, which that's not good. But he did try. And the shit that he's seen, we'll never know, but he did fuck up his leg. So whatever he saw.
He's probably referencing the fact that he was inside the building and saw the bodies in the blood tubes.
Yeah,
that's probably what he's talking about.
I was thinking it was something that he just recently saw. And he's like, we need to get the fuck out of here, and I'm not going in to get that key.
No.
So Grace, go get the fucking key.
My favorite line of his is, she comes out of the building and there's just zombies coming from everywhere, and he's just like, "The fuck you do?"
Yeah.
What the fuck?
He's like,
did
"What
you
the hell
do?
happened? It was peaceful out here, and all of a sudden, all these zombies are coming out. What the fuck?
I got the key. What the fuck did you do?"
Yeah, it's like, holy shit.
I ain't outrunning nothing with my bum leg. Backing up to Marie and Emily real quick. Why do you think Emily and Marie turned into such different creatures if they were experimented on the same? Because clearly she says the medicine they gave us, medicine. Okay, medicine. I'm sure that PTSD'd a lot of people with abusive history, but the medicine that they've given me made our eyes go bad. Why do you think they turned into different monsters? Because Emily kind of looks like, and our editor Dustin kind of said this, and I agree with him, if the baby from Village stood up. Whereas Marie looks like very heavily inspired by Lisa Trevor.
Just more kind of tall.
Not wearing faces and being more bestial.
Yeah, more beast-like.
Why? Because she almost looks more like Nemesis, whereas Emily looks more like something in the T-Abyss category.
It could just be a culmination of maybe, it was a different form of experimentation with her. Mm. It could be like a Lisa Trevor situation where it's a concoction of more stuff that they tried on her specifically, on Marie specifically, that was different than Emily. But I don't believe they specify, to our knowledge. So I don't know why that change happened, but I do think it's a cool design.
Yeah.
And I do like the fact that, Grace does have a stalker enemy that didn't necessarily overstay its welcome and didn't necessarily make it seem like, oh, another stalker enemy. This is annoying. I hate hiding. Like, it wasn't annoying.
Yeah.
And then you find out more about the character kind of as you go through and learn about the experiments. We just don't know why Marie is in this form and Emily turns into, like you said, like if the baby stood up from Village. I think at the end of the day, it's just cool that we have some variety, because I feel like if they were both kind of like similar looking to what Emily, was, or what we saw her turn into for that fight, that very short fight, wasn't even really a fight. It was kind of an encounter. It just would have been more samey. So I'm happy that, it got people scared enough leading into this game because Marie was in the demo, and that was all over the marketing early on. And I'm happy that they both lived up to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially Emily being a bigger role than we thought.
So this isn't canon, and this is not something that I've seen talked about at all. But I did look at the designs, and I kind of was trying to figure out, how is a callback. But this is the greatest hits of Resident Evil, Requiem, right? So, with Morpheus and some other things with the T specifically, there is an ongoing theory that it turns you into what you believe you are, or stuff like that. That's why Morpheus is very beautiful. He wanted beauty above all else. That's why he kind of turns into a woman, even though he's a man. I have a theory that the reason Marie turns into a scary, spooky monster that crawls around in the dark is because that's how she feels when she mutates. She's kept and locked away in a cell. She's blind. She can't see. Everything's dark.
Yeah, that makes sense.
She's kept out of the light because the light hurts. It's almost like the T-virus gave her a weakness. Because you notice, Emily doesn't have that weakness.
No.
So it's almost like the T-virus is like, you hate the light, weak to light. That sucks.
Now, I kind of...
Oh, you like anxiety? Anxiety.
Yeah, because it was weird, because I kind of thought, between leaving the care center and getting to Harry and that whole section, when she was like, are you okay? She's like, I don't know. I thought that Emily was getting affected, that because Marie was getting injured, she was also getting injured.
Yeah, I remember you saying, oh, they're linked.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I thought that at first, first playthrough initially, and then I'm like, okay, I guess they're not. But she seemed to kind of get a little, maybe it was just the fact that she was finally out the care center. She was acting that way. She's never been out of the fucking care center her whole life.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why she was acting like that. And obviously she was scared. She didn't know what was out there. But yeah, I like both of those characters and the designs.
And I think that maybe Emily turned into more of a baby-looking monster because she felt love and babied at the end of her life by Grace wanting to take care of her.
I like that theory of it's kind of what they think they are, or what they become in their minds, because that's interesting. It kind of gives it a purpose.
It further fits that theory.
Right. But we've yet to see a proven
there's no proof.
Rhyme or reason.
There's no
Right.
I don't even think there's a file that says maybe it does this. It's just one of those ongoing theories. I know Dustin talks about it before, especially with Morpheus.
Yeah. No, that making that connection makes sense. Yeah. Not a lot of people might not know about that,
So that's why I think they turn into different monsters.
Okay.
And it makes me wonder what all of the other ones turned into.
Yeah. Yeah, what they look like. Because, again, we know that there was countless kids and experiments and stuff like that. We kind of talked about Harry a little bit, like we said, kind of sidebar character. I guess the only other person to really bring up is Alyssa Ashcroft. And while she was very short-lived in this game, I loved her actress. I loved how she looked in the Aria engine.
Yeah.
I like how she acted. I think it's very true to how I feel like Alyssa would act, just seeing her from Outbreak 1 and 2. So I think, keeping Alyssa canon or still involved, I think was cool, even though we assumed that she was going to get clapped at the Renwood Hotel, which is basically what happened. But we finally saw it unfold in a gruesome way, and her neck gets sliced. But yeah, so that's all we have for, I guess, the bulk of characters. I don't really think I'm missing any that are worth mentioning. I don't think so. Obviously, we had Hunk come back.
Yeah.
But like we said, I mean, we kind of get into that with enemies and bosses, and that's what we're about to get into now. Enemies and bosses. We had T-Virus zombies return this time with personalities.
Yeah.
All having different, different routines and patterns based on their past lives, which is pretty cool. And I think they made it refreshing enough, given the fact that we've had so many zombies in these past few Resident Evil, titles. Like, you've seen them in the remakes, you've seen them, the main lines, you haven't really seen them since 6 in Leon's campaign. 7 and 8 obviously dealt with different enemies and stuff like that. So seeing them come back, being the T-Virus specifically, was actually really refreshing. And I really enjoyed the blister heads. While they did remind me of clickers from Last of Us.
Yeah.
Crimson heads were first, lickers were first, and obviously this kind of reminds me of like a weird zombie licker combo, which kind of checks out.
Yeah, it has definitely some of those
very like
reminiscent design choices.
Yeah. Like they're not crawling around, but they're very fast. They're very, sneaky in how they maneuver.
They do kind of like monkey around a little bit.
Yeah,
Like
so you're trying to shoot and it's
crawl.
just like, fuck.
Yeah.
Especially on the harder modes, they're even faster. They're very spongy. In fact, spongier and more dangerous, I would find, than the original Crimson Heads, because the Crimson Heads were dangerous, but they definitely went down, after more than a couple shots. Even if you didn't have a crazy weapon, you could still down them. I feel like these enemies, specifically on like standard classic and up, feel very spongy and tanky. But I did enjoy how you can stop them from coming back and kill them while they're on the ground before they get back up. Very reminiscent to burning the bodies in Remake. So that was really cool. I really enjoyed that. Did you like the zombies and the blister heads overall?
I did. I am curious about what exact strain of T-Virus is being used. Why their eyes go all weird. Why they have like the star pattern in their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that was really unexplored too.
We thought that was going to be kind of a bigger deal.
Like, is this the T-Virus? Is this T-Elpis?
The T-Elpis.
It's not. Obviously, we know that now. But that was where our theories were. Like, is this a new T-Virus and mold combo?
One thing it's interesting too, because like it's almost like when you see Grace in the intro and she gets attacked for the first time, she gets bit in canon, in a cutscene, and then it's not really explored or explained. Because I was thinking, oh shit, she's gonna get the T-Virus, and that makes sense because she's getting bit in the cutscene, and it makes it seem like a bigger deal. Doesn't matter. It ends up not mattering. And then, so it makes you wonder, like, okay, and then if we're up against the T-Virus stuff, like, how does it's just interesting how they made it a little different, right?
So one of two things happened. She either was cured while unconscious by Gideon before she was hung upside down because he knew he needed her alive.
Sure.
That would have been should have been explained in the file. Cured of
somewhere,
T-Virus
yeah.
or whatever. Or she ended up getting a dose of Elpis before the T-Virus infection kicked in, because this is supposed to take place over the course of like a night.
But if Elpis wasn't unleashed because nobody knew the password unless he knew
the bad ending implies that she would have just turned and died. That's another way to interpret the bad ending, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe she didn't get it. Or another thing, which I think we talked about in either the live stream or whatever, was the daylight / T vaccine could just be something like a flu shot, and everybody gets it because they know bioterror and the T-Virus is out there. So maybe she was resistant to it, and that's why it did it. But she could have gotten T syndrome in 30 years. So there's always possibilities for that. They kind of explain that away with a little bit of headcanon, I guess.
Yeah, they did their best with, trying to at least connect this a little bit. And I do think seeing these zombies back were pretty cool, in the way that they ended up, working with them within the game. And the Lickers came back kind of towards the end in the arc. We were mentioning that earlier, which is really cool to see. Obviously, we already mentioned Marie, very effective stalker enemy. The chunks, while there were, only 2 of them, it was still pretty fun fights, or just someone you got to run from. The biggest one, I think one of my favorites, is the Titan Spinner.
Yeah.
One of my favorite boss fights. RE engine debut for big spiders, and the baby spiders coming back. And so that's a very like spongy, tanky fight. And I did enjoy that, and I enjoyed the design. Plant 43, on the other hand, was very short-lived, and they kind of just like added that in, you know? It was cool, but that was definitely like the quickest fight was the plant. And like, once you can parry and stuff like that, it was just like, okay, that was like one last boss fight in the middle of the city. But I like that you get 2 boss fights before you even get to the RPD. So you get the web spinner, the Titan Spinner off the rip, and then it goes right into the plant. So at least there's like some stuff going on, because I didn't want to immediately get to the city and then be like, oh, we're going right to RPD. It's like, no, we're going to stretch this out a little bit. And I love the little like hidden thing where like, you know, he's driving and he's talking to Sherry and he's passing the gas station and he's passing the sign and you see the little spider crawling on like the sign and stuff. That was like really cool. A little hint that was happening. And then once we saw like the webs, we were like, oh shit, it's a fucking spider. So that was both of those fights were pretty cool. The Plant 43 was like the lesser of the cooler ones in this section, because I think the next one's actually pretty good as well. And that is the Super Tyrant. And the Super Tyrant is, you know, a lot of people think that it was kind of like half-assed done. But I think when you're coming out of the RPD and you deal with Mr. X and the Super Tyrant back to back, I really, really enjoyed that scene. And I think that it's like, if you're going back to the RPD, you're going to have some kind of Mr. X or Super Tyrant come back. You know, like they couldn't get away with this if it wasn't, you know, just like such a 30th year kind of return to form, going back, you know, to this place that Leon has so much history. It just made sense. Like, obviously Mr. X was kind of, you know, it's kind of funny that he does like say, oh yeah, I remember you, and then shoots him knowing that it's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
But he does shoot the ceiling down on him and shit, and it is pretty cool. So it's like Leon does have, again, that experience behind him with how he approaches these BOWs. It's like nothing to him. So it's just cool to see that dynamic of how it used to be versus how confident he is now, going through all these boss fights. Out of these 3 in the city, what are your favorite? Like Titan Spinner, Plant 43, or, you know, the Super Tyrant? Like, what do you...
I like the Super Tyrant in design the most, obviously, because it's a classic BOW.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a new model, but it's still basically the classic. The Titan Spinner is the best boss in the game. It's also the most challenging boss. But the bosses in this game do feel a little lackluster. The plant one is essentially stand here and shoot it until you can blow it up,
or then parry the the tentacles or whatever.
Yeah. Victor's first form is really fun too.
I do agree. Yeah.
But they're a little lackluster. I was really kind of disappointed that we kill Marie by just opening the hatch and then shooting her basically once.
It goes back to Grace not having any actual
She doesn't really have any
fights.
bosses.
Yeah.
I wish it would have weakened her, and then she would have went like ballistic, and you would have had to put her down while she had like pingasing moments.
Or you had to get more like Molotovs and make them real quick, like while she was getting stunned or something.
Yeah, like there should have been a real fight.
Yeah, I agree, because Leon, like we said, he got all the boss fights in this, really, and everything. And
she didn't even get one.
No. But I agree. Titan Spinner is probably my favorite boss, 100%. Super Tyrant is a motherfucker on Insanity. John knows this firsthand, but that was a pain in the fucking ass. And his jump attacks and shit, they definitely made it hard. I think some people that might think it's like too easy either have to stop playing on infinite ammo or play on a harder mode, because some of these bosses do take time.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like, bop, 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 done. Like,
we had no infinite ammo for that run. He is very hard. You have to parry.
yeah.
And if you're not good at parrying, you're not going to beat that fight.
So if you want a challenge for RE9, you can go look for it, and you'll find it. That's all I'm saying. I know a lot of people online are saying, everything felt like too short to get through these sections. It's like, if you take your time and play how we played, the game wasn't over in 4 hours. We didn't run.
No.
I know you can beat it that fast or even faster, but like it didn't just feel like we're going to rush these bosses and make them feel like empty, if that makes sense. Because I've been seeing a lot of people give some of these bosses flack, or they wanted more boss fights in the RPD because of how like sentimental it was and everything. And I'm like, they're only going to do so much. And I think Mr. X chasing Leon, and then he gets into, you know, the Super Tyrant out back, and that leads right before you get into Arc. Like, everything lined up, I think, perfectly, especially with those emotional key moments going through the RPD and exploring everything, you know. But I think the boss fights are pretty solid. I think the Nemi is the only one where I'm like, okay, it's cool, but I like you said, I wish it was more like the first form of Victor, where it felt just like a little more original, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like Victor had a boss fight that was cut. He needed to have a boss fight where it was just you versus Victor transformed. And then, like, that boss fight that we got should have been Victor stage 2. And then stage 3 should have been when he just succumbs to his injuries, the Tyrant takes over. Or the Plaga, the type, any Alpha, or I mean, any Gamma in this case. Nemesis takes over and becomes the mindless, big, hulking thing. I feel like there was a boss fight missing with Xeno as well.
Yeah.
Whether they could have done so many things. They could have done, like, you are Grace and Leon is an AI, and he's just, him and Xeno are going at it, and you have to, like, impulse shoot him with the vaccine or something. Like, they could have done so much.
I thought it was going to be something like that.
Yeah.
Like where, like, you know, the Requiem's on the front of the cover. I thought it was going to come down like life or death situation. He has to like throw her the Requiem or something, and she was going to have to like do the final shot kind of thing after she does damage. Like, that's what I thought, because, you know, it is still a symbolic thing, I guess, in the game, but it's still just like, I thought it was going to be like, you know, like that little punctuation ending there. But yeah, I mean, I just think that like a lot of these fights could have been a little bit, you know, more kind of, I don't want to say spaced out, but I feel like if Victor, because the bike with Victor, that's like, well, that's a cool scene. It's not really like a fight. It's just like, okay, dogs come out, you got to shoot the dogs, and then you got to shoot him across on the bike. I wish that there was maybe like another section of versing Victor, and there was a little bit more space, I guess, in between, and you could have had a, you know, proper Xeno fight kind of at the end there that would have also just made sense and fit if they made it sense. You know, if they made it work within the story, I think, because the biggest thing is that when I think Victor gets kind of sidelined, I think some of the boss elements do too, the final forms.
Yeah.
So I just wish that like that was maybe more like attended to, if that makes sense. But yeah, I didn't think that the enemies or the variety or the bosses, like, yeah, obviously we saw the dogs a very short glimpse. It was cool to see them. We didn't get hunters. You know, we saw crows for a second. They made a little cameo. We didn't fight them, obviously.
We got lickers.
Yeah, we got the lickers. They were cool.
And we got, like, the zombies in Ark remind me of, like, Tyrant to bees.
Yeah, they're almost like naked zombies, but, like, Tyrant to bees, like you said. Like,
they look like they're supposed to be, they're forming into those tyrants that they're trying to sell.
You see them in the test tubes. They come out. They come crawling out. You know what I mean? And they're a bitch when you got to get in that one room and they all funnel in. Mm-hmm. When you have to get the one piece that I forget what it's called. It's the jewel or the one piece that once you get the master key thing. It's not the
red
master
orb
key, but the red orb.
It's called one's called Noblesse and one's called something. I can't remember. Animus.
Yeah.
That
part.
Orb.
Yeah, those zombies can stack, and they're definitely annoying, especially when you're trying to avoid lickers at the same time and be quiet. But yeah, I overall I really enjoyed the enemies and the bosses, and I felt like they never feel like they're a drag to go through and fight again. Obviously, on the hardest mode, I think Super Tyrant takes the cake as far as being really difficult if you're not set for ammo at that part. Like, I feel like every other boss might not be as... I mean, the Titan Spinner is another one that's up there because he is a fucking tank.
The Titan Spinner is the hardest in my opinion because he can hurt you even when you're like climbing ladders and stuff, and it's really cheap, and he does a lot of damage.
That's true.
At least with like the Super Tyrant, it always feels like you're losing most of the time because of your own mistiming, or you just don't have enough bullets.
That's true. And he is spongy as hell, just like
the one
Titan
thing
Spinner.
that's cheap about him, though, every boss has like a cheap thing in this game. The web spinner is just like, doesn't give you a big window and is very spongy. The Super Tyrant and the cars, bro. Like, him throwing the cars is so annoying.
I know.
And the jump.
The jump off the car.
There's no real indication. I know how to dodge it now. I've tested it. We did it on stream.
Yeah.
But even then, even knowing what it's like, you still have to really practice before you get it. And even then, sometimes he still hits you. No damage on this game is going to be a nightmare.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And then with the plant, it's just like,
very fast.
sometimes when you get hit, you start getting pummeled. Same thing with Victor. Sometimes he pummels you. But all of the testing, all of the, you just got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
So it's just one of them things. You just got to learn how to parry. And once you learn how to parry, you're good.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, like, the whole approach with Leon is to kind of be more aggressive and more assertive. And with these fights, I think that they at least did a good job at like giving that stance of like, okay, you're going to have to either sit here or parry. And if you don't, you are going to get fucked up and lose a lot of health. And obviously you have to kind of gain that confidence as you learn some of these boss fights and enemies, it ends up being that. But yeah, we're going to have to see what happens. With if we get, our Xeno fight or another fight in the story DLC. I'm sure we will. But, as the boss fight stands, they weren't bad at all. And a lot of the fights were fun. And the enemies were very memorable in that regard.
And the designs are all great.
Yeah. That's the thing, too. Like, it's one thing if some of these were, like, lame designs, but these are actually pretty cool. And I already liked Victor as it is and Xeno as they were, so I think at least we saw more of Victor. Just we didn't see anything else of Xeno transforming into anything.
I do wish that the Titan Spinner was more reminiscent of the original spiders.
Like the floofy ones?
Like the tarantula-looking ones?
Yeah.
Than, like, the Widow. I think the Black Widow design was a little, like, okay. Like, it's cool that we got it, and I still like the design.
I wonder if modders will go in and make one that's like
that's possible.
Yeah.
I wish they just would have used something more
like the fluffy ones in the sewer.
Yeah. Fuzzy.
The fuzzy spider.
Yeah.
Bring back
and maybe that's why they didn't, because they were afraid it would look too goofy.
For RE2 Remake, they didn't even touch it.
Yeah.
And they didn't do 3 either. This is the first time we're seeing spiders like this in the RE engine, which is kind of crazy. It's been like
they look more like the spider designs in Outbreak.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, like the brown widows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They feel like they look like
more like
they have like a hard shell, to them, and then like obviously like Leon has to
hard carapace. Yeah.
Take the tomahawk and fucking slice. All that stuff's great, man.
And the little spiders are cool. It's cool that they brought both back.
They
I
did.
like that.
Yeah.
They are way more difficult on Insanity mode.
Yes.
They jump and shit.
Oh yeah. And already taking one hit on Insanity mode is bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really enjoyed. I think probably the Titan Spinner is probably my favorite as well. So I think that's a good favorite top boss right there.
Yeah. How did you feel? We already kind of covered this mostly like during the live show and everything, but how did you feel about the personalities in the zombies?
I thought they were pretty good.
Did you like that each encounter felt unique?
Yeah.
Or did you feel like that made the game a little too on rails? Like a theme park ride.
It like some of the way that they acted was, very scripted in that way, so you kind of knew what to expect on multiple playthroughs. So I could say maybe it could lose its like, it would lose its like effect, I guess, or like, but I don't know. I think that they've done different things, some playthroughs where they would pop up or do different things that I haven't seen them do before. So it also seems like they're unique and they pull in those different personalities pretty well. And I like the fact that they, like they say you're fired when he's choking out, his employee, or, lights out, turning the lights off. You have the cook, obviously have the singstress. Like I like them because it just gave it like a refreshing kind of approach, even if some of them tend to do similar things because they're kind of scripted in that way. The maid's always in the bathroom, but then sometimes I've never even seen the maid, and then she just appears in that room between the isolation ward where the chunk goes in and out. Mm-hmm. She's just in there like cleaning up a dead body that I killed.
There's actually two maids.
Right?
There's one that looks like Rebecca and one that has the glass in her face.
And they've done different stuff every time.
Yeah.
So I do like
There's
that.
flags in the game that
Right.
like when you went to the freezer in the stream and then came out and he was there.
Yes.
The chef was there.
Exactly. It kind of knows.
There's flags.
Yeah. So
it knows like, oh, if you pick up this, we're going to move this enemy to here.
Yeah. Which again, I like that because there is some still like, you can't predict exactly. So yeah, I liked the personalities. I think it was cool. I think it's cool that they, I guess toned down the personalities a little bit from what they said, because they didn't have to worry about making like so many more. I feel like the amount that they had was just enough.
Yeah.
And they kept the designs unique. You do see some repeats later, but not really. Like they kind of have unique, the surgeon, the different people in the care center, like,
I think all of the zombies that are in the care center are unique.
Yeah. It literally seems that way.
The zombies, once you get to Raccoon City, they're variants.
Yes.
But some of them I think are repeats.
Yeah. And, some of the zombies in Raccoon City, they look skeletal, which is pretty cool. They probably would look even more skeletal.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to get into like zombie logic and stuff because we're already talking about a game that is not reality. So it's just
how did
us
you
kind of
feel
guessing.
about that, though? I guess that'll segue our point in the story. Returning to Raccoon City, let's start there.
I think it was very well done. I mean, it's the second half of this game. It basically gets handed to Leon at this point.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think the RPD takes the cake. But to be honest with you, the Chronic Care Center is probably like second for me.
Yeah.
I think the Chronic Care Center is probably one of my favorite bits of this game, right along with the RPD in Raccoon City. And Raccoon City is obviously, you can explore more and you're seeing a little bit more that we've never seen before, which is pretty cool. I thought I think we had goosebumps the whole time walking through all these bits in Raccoon City and in RPD. You're kind of seeing all these BSAA tents, set up, and these like HQs that were set up, and that's where Leon can upgrade his stuff. But it also shows you in story-wise that the BSAA were here, and they have prints here, and we're wondering, what's going on, and the fact that there is no record of the missile strike ever being asked to be launched. Little do we know that it's because they launched it to, cover up Elpis and cover up Ark and everything that was still going on. So
the connections was called it in.
Yeah, the connections.
And we also know that Xeno has some type of power over the DSO and the connections because
he's there.
And Victor's like, your plan didn't work, Xeno. Your plan to get them off our back didn't work. Leon's here. Like, he set off the alarm.
Yeah. Which is funny because why would he... Knowing Xeno should know Leon. Why would you think that he wouldn't be on your ass at that point? Is kind of very naive. Like that's something Wesker would never do. Wesker would know, all right, if I'm doing this shit and Chris is on my ass, like I got to be ready for Chris. He was not ready for Leon whatsoever. And that's where I think the flaws in some of the characters where it's like, okay, Wesker wouldn't have done that. Wesker would have done that better.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it was returning to a place, and it's very hard to do this right. It's very hard to go back and you're trying to explain, all these things that weren't there before. Now we're in Resident Evil 9. So when Leon flashes back to Kendo, it's not Kendo from RE2 1998. It's Kendo from the RE2 remake.
Yeah.
Leon A is canon now. There's these certain things that they're going back and changing that might not sit well.
Yeah, he flashes back with Marvin.
With a lot of people, that too. Same thing with Marvin, right? So all the flashbacks now in 9 are no longer going back to the original trilogy. There's like a wall now. And where the original trilogy, it was like Claire A, Leon B was canon. That doesn't even matter. And then the scenario system is all fucked up in 2 remake. And so now they're taking A and they're making that canon with just what happened.
Yeah.
And so
it's kind of like a comic book where the events happened, but the way they're portrayed, maybe not.
Exactly.
In the exact order.
Yeah, so they're picking and choosing what they want to change completely. Some stuff is the same. Some stuff is not the same.
Yeah, and the A and B scenarios are so really not that different that now, like, it's just saying both A's are canon.
Yeah, exactly.
In a kind of a weird way. It's not necessarily saying B is canon. It's just really saying that, like, Leon A is canon, and whatever Claire went through is just whatever Claire went through. And who maybe, I don't know. It's really confusing, and I wish they wouldn't do that.
Yeah, it's that's the only thing with the story. Like, I like how it was, a pretty simple, just like, hey, we're up against the clock, you got to figure out a cure. But then it became, okay, but you also have to go back and face the past in many ways, and he feels that burden. So I think the story of Leon and the story of Grace is very enticing and very entertaining to see unfold. And I wanted to see what was going to happen around every corner, even though some stuff felt very rushed and a little confusing towards the end. And the explanations, even with files given, because, the files also tell a story here. And the files are very well done in this game. And especially, Grace's report at the end kind of puts a nice little, like, wrap-up blanket around the story and the things it kind of puts things in perspective. And I really didn't mind that with, the Chronic Care Center and Grace going through all this stuff and with Emily, I didn't necessarily mind the fact that Grace was not really, like, special. It was kind of like a fake out.
I thought it was fine.
I think a lot of us were kind of coming into this predicting, we might get Daylight, we might get a reference to Outbreak, we might get more Outbreak characters that we might see in the Death Report, things like that. Obviously, Michael Warren was one of the 6 that were in the Death Report.
Michael Warren, yeah.
Who's 90.
Interesting. We didn't mention Nathan Dempsey earlier, but he was kind of like a nothing burger character.
Just kind of there as the boss.
There's actually something interesting that is on the big screens that Grace looks at in the Ark.
Mm-hmm.
And some people have, free camered it, blew it up and all that. But there's actually a flow chart on the screen. And I wanted to bring this up for Nathan particularly.
Sure.
So it's either Victor's plan or Zeno's plan or both. But it is a flow chart about exactly how they got Grace to be on the case. And the flow chart says, and I'm going to read it line by line.
Okay.
It says, find person infected with Umbrella's curse. So probably Victor. Put pressure. Okay. I'm going to read you the flow chart. Find person infected with Umbrella's curse. Plant corpse with symptoms of Umbrella's curse in Wrenwood Hotel. Arrow to that. Put pressure on relevant parties to ensure it is handed to the FBI. After that, ensure Grace Ashcroft is the one put on the case. After that, check Grace Ashcroft is the same person from 8 years ago. The blood.
Right.
That's why he hangs him upside down. How does Grace react to photos of Alyssa laid out in the hotel? How does she react to being in the hotel? Sends her to the hotel. Liberate her. Liberate Grace Ashcroft. Conduct relevant tests for a match to a key. Bring key to RPD. Get her to cooperate. Bring her to ARC. Release Elpis.
That's like the master plan for him.
And it's literally a screenshot from one of the screens on the computer in front of her.
Wow. Okay.
So this is the kind of stuff that, like, this would have been a nice file.
Yeah, but it's just in the background
But it's just on the wall in the background. Why?
I completely missed that, yeah.
So I was looking at this the other day, and this tells us that the connections have the ability to force the FBI to do what they want. It's more than just the DSO. They're in the side of the U.S. government. They basically called Dempsey up and was like, put her on the case. Click. What is he going to do? He was told to do it. So he's going to follow orders. That's how she got there. It's not Nathan's fault she was put on the case.
Because we were thinking, he could be in on it.
Yeah.
Because, the RE bosses in RE in any capacity, in any job, can always be up to something no good. But,
our theory was correct, but we never got an explanation as to why it was correct until this picture came out.
And it wasn't a file, which is odd,
it's not
too.
a file.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very it kind of goes into, I guess more of like what the ultimate plan was overall, like what Victor was just trying to accomplish and execute. And for the most part, they had Grace exactly where they wanted her, and him and Zeno took her to the city and tried to explain everything.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they were kind of underused in that way. But I just think that like the story, while it did get a little confusing and the flow was kind of interrupted a bit towards the very end, I think this is probably one of my favorite like mainline stories since probably 4 or 5.
Yeah.
It's really been a long time since I've been really intrigued and really into like a mainline story like I am here with Resident Evil 9. So I think that it was entertaining. I think it made sense for the most part. There was some questions. The files filled in a lot of great work. I love the Chronic Care Center. I love the history of the Chronic Care Center. I love the way it looks, and it reminds me of something that you would explore, back in the day in an old Resident Evil game, and I love the breadcrumbs they left around. This has been the strongest file-based mainline game in such a long time.
Yeah.
And so I didn't mind Spencer having this kind of like end of life thing where, you betrayed everybody. Nobody, you're fucking evil. Nobody likes you. You pushed everybody away. Patrick is the only your butler is the only person who gives a fuck about you or gives a shit to keep you around in his life. And even though you making this cure is this like, you're not going to be forgiven. Nobody's going to, your name is forever ruined.
And he also can be argued that he called Wesker to kill him on purpose. He was done with life.
Right. And there's certain things that they can change in 5 Remake that could reflect that.
He knew Wesker was going to kill him.
Right.
In the original RE5, he knew.
He knew Wesker's abilities.
Are you telling me I was manufactured? Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as he said yeah, he knew he was dead.
Yeah. And, I was to become a god, all these things, right?
Yeah.
It makes you question how they're going to change that in a remake. But I think Spencer was just looking for a reason for him to kind of make amends in his own way, even though just somebody doing that after causing countless death and destruction and everything with Raccoon City, you technically can never be forgiven, or you can't really forgive yourself. But for some reason, Elpis, the cure for him, and Grace being the pure child, nothing wrong, just as is, the innocence, was his like last light, his glimmer of hope before death. I think that's pretty well done. I'm not looking at this like Spencer wouldn't do that. Now, some people are.
No, I disagree with those people. I actually think this is very much in character for Spencer. If I can't have immortality, nobody can.
I didn't achieve this, so I'm
done. And I will ruin the world's balance that I was trying to create by being a new superior human race. I was to become a god, etc., etc. When those dreams that reality that he dreamed of became impossible.
He was sick.
He was sick. He was dying. He came face to face with his own mortality. He said, well, I started this, and I am not going to let anyone else have it.
It almost seems pretty definitive, other than the fact that, again, we know this is a franchise. We know they're doing story DLC. So we know there's going to be more to this, or what they're going to expand on. But I like that we got Spencer in this game. Like, we predicted that he would be in it. We just didn't know to what extent, and at least what they showed us, even though he was faced away, and you see his wheelchair in his office, and there's the Code Veronica reference. There's a lot of cool stuff that you can, little Easter eggs that this game threw in there. But I like the fact that it just didn't feel forced.
Yeah.
And you had the you just had that cutscene and the interview with him and Alyssa, and I thought that was really well done. And I like the fact that, within Alyssa's interview, that is when, she obviously gets eventually introduced to Grace, and, to adopt her. He put that in his will for Alyssa to take her and basically raise her like her own. And so I think that the fact that he kind of psyched everybody out, Victor and Zeno, that's pretty That's pretty cool. Like, it was like the master, like, fuckery of, like, yeah, you think this is special. It's not. You've just been misled, and you're never really going to win. So, you know, the whole thing with the Raccoon City Syndrome was really interesting. All these people that are essentially bound to have this syndrome. Jill, obviously, you could say, oh, well, she has this, she has that. Who knows, right, how it's going to affect her. But if it affected Sherry, it could easily affect Jill, even what she's gone through. So it does raise some questions, and maybe we'll get those answers, maybe we won't. In true Ari fashion, you never know. But I just like the twist. I like the Spencer twist. I just think that, like, you know, Victor got sidelined a little bit by Zeno's appearance, and Zeno didn't really get the craziest amount of work with his with, you know, just his presence. Like, it was great, but, like, they didn't give him much to do towards the very end, other than, you know, he gets sliced, he gets reanimated, his arm comes back, and then he cures himself, not knowing that it's a cure. And I think the story, like I said, it just kind of felt more connected than the last few mainline games, where, again, 7 and 8 kind of felt like they were the outsider kind of spin-off, and then 6 was the last one that at least felt remotely close, but it was still very convoluted, and this story is nowhere near as confusing as RE6 or all over the place as RE6. So when I think of the mainline games, RE4, RE5 era, I have to put this one up there with those, you know, as far as story and just, I guess, games overall. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, like, people are probably going to have a lot of questions at the end of this game. If you're a more newer Resident Evil fan, you might have a lot more questions. So you also have to think about it like that. Like, it's like, if you're a new fan playing this game, man, you might have a lot more questions than answers. Or you might have, you know, some kind of idea just from kind of how they try to spell it out for everybody. But at least we have a little bit of a connection to someone like Alyssa, or we know more about Spencer than what people that maybe just played 7 and 8 jump into this game. And they might not know everything. So this game tries to give you just enough to jump into that side of, you know, the dark umbrella history that kind of led to places like the Chronic Care Center and led to T-Virus researchers like Victor, who are still kind of hanging around and dealing with this. So that's the biggest thing, right? So whether or not some of these plot holes and some of the rushed aspects of this get turned around in a story DLC, we just know that they're going to show us something. And whether or not they retain, you know, the head that they grab at the end after the post-credit scene, if that's Zeno, we don't know. We just know that it's in the platform room.
Could be Victor.
Could be Victor.
Could be trying to get the blood. Could be Zeno.
Yeah.
Could be anything.
We know that the BSAA is compromised still in this story. There's a split with the North American division. And it's, you know, it's just an interesting thing because we saw them use BOWs at the end of Village. Obviously, there's been people that have, you know, John was mentioning this earlier, and I had a couple people hit me up about it, where you can look through the soldiers, like, you know, helmet, and you can see that it's like the same BOW face from Village, right? So it's that could just be for a placeholder, but regardless, it's interesting. And it would be cool if this DLC kind of, you know, wraps up the story and leads right into 10. I think that would be another cool thing.
That's what he looks like in free cam, by the way.
So you do see him in free cam.
Yeah.
Okay, so they gave him
and
a design.
they fucking put gray speck here inside the wall, away from the camera.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. But when it comes to like little things that I can look at and say, okay, I just wish this was a little bit better. Some of the back end of the story and some of the stuff that kind of felt rushed towards the end could have been tightened up a little bit more. But I am very curious to see where they go from here and what this extra content will be.
I think that when it comes to the story of this game, it really comes down to the fact that there is just it feels like the story in a lot of ways gets 80% of the way there, and like 20% of what they wanted to tell us got cut. And I'm curious to know if it's going to be in the DLC or if it's just the fact that we're going to have to accept Resident Evil does this.
Yeah, and that's
because
what we
of tight
don't know.
release windows and stuff like that.
We don't know how well they're going to answer some of the things that maybe people might have these high expectations thinking that X, Y, and Z will be answered, but it might not.
But it might not. It might be 2 years in the future, 10 years in the future.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know.
We've time jumped for the last DLC, so,
Yeah.
you know, is this a post, you know, Raccoon City revisit? Who knows?
Now, as far as the story goes, explaining the story, this story does come across to a lot of people as a little confusing, like you said earlier. There is a lot of talk about, like, is she a clone? Is she not a clone? Do we trust the bad guys? Do we not trust the bad guys? Because they were obviously wrong about her being special. But what if they weren't wrong? Mm-hmm. And that was a ploy also. So there's a lot of confusion. What I will say to everybody watching the podcast, we plan on putting out a lot of lore videos. That's going to become a staple of this channel. So we will be more articulated and more scripted and helping explain the lore to how we understand it to the fullest. So look forward to those videos that will be coming. You know, this is not the end-all, be-all of how we feel about the story. Obviously, there's DLC coming. But we will get into the nitty-gritty about it, and I'm sure our opinions will change as we kind of further memory bank all of the stuff that was in Requiem, because there really was a lot.
There was. I mean,
there's a lot of questions, too.
Yeah, there's. I think that's why, again, we choose to do this podcast, at least when we do it, so we can kind of have more of a definitive spoiler discussion review. Like John said, sometimes those opinions can change, but we at least know how we feel about the game as, you know, gameplay, story, characters. Like, we're at least able to judge it enough, being Resident Evil fans, comparing it to other Resident Evil games. And that's kind of why we do it in this longer conversation podcast type of way, because this isn't just, hey guys, 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, good night. You know, our review was obviously just kind of like very, you know, a video review rather. It was supposed to be very, you know, to the point, fresh off the first playthrough, first impressions, and is still kind of a genuine review. But these podcasts are, again, kind of really breaking stuff down and bouncing off of each other because we know that we're fans and what we want to see. And some of this stuff is a more in depth and more deep than just saying, yeah, the game was good, I had this, and that, and this is the number rating. You know, we might place it in certain areas on a tier list or something like that, but usually these podcast reviews don't just, like, you know, end in like, this is how I would give it and that's it. It's always been multiple hours. It's been talking about stuff, the things we liked, things we didn't like. So we hope that you enjoy kind of how we've been going about this, because we tried to be a little bit more constructed, especially this time around, and especially post the Village show. So I think that we've been very good with that, or at least keeping with that. I think the last thing that I wanted to say about the story is worst part about it is the bad ending that doesn't count.
Yes.
I hate multiple endings like this specifically.
Yeah.
It's one thing if you beat the game and you save this person, that's one ending. You do this, that's another ending. This was a complete waste of time. And it was just for the shock factor of most people that would probably pick that for the first time on stream and then see Leon get his brains blown out, and they're basically like, oh my God. That's literally what that was for.
It really didn't feel good.
It was a complete waste of time. And so that's one of the worst parts about the
story. And then it's just over.
And it's just over. There's no boss in the credits roll. And the game says at the results screen, yeah, you should go back and pick the other option. And again, it's one of the worst choices you could make in the story that it doesn't hold any weight to the main story. But it's just such a waste of time and such a fake out. It's like, why even do it? So that's another thing I wanted to add at the end of, like, something I didn't like about that. It's like that I did not like anything about that at all. Yeah. And it's not the fact that Leon died, because it is,
they
like,
did the
sad,
same thing
but
with RE7.
Yeah,
like
I wasn't a fan of that either.
When you cure Zoe instead of Mia, you kill Mia, but all of the stuff you did to Mia didn't kill her. The axe, the chains, like,
right,
everything
she was taking all the hits. Yeah,
you didn't kill her, and then all of a sudden the crowbar kills her.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, it feels stupid. Like,
Yeah.
I don't agree with Nakanishi's this has to be a thing.
No, they should have just kind of stuck with, the
That's
one
one of the rare
thing.
things Village got right. There's no multiple endings.
Yeah, they stuck to one. I think in the future they should just stick to one, and maybe just stick to like, I guess, one character or one scenario, unless it's like Code Veronica, where they're going to be switching back and forth between characters. So yeah, that I think is needs to be a little bit more focused on going forward. But I guess we can maybe talk about, like, real quick, because this is all just speculating, like what the potential DLC would be or should be or could be, right? This extra content was announced the other day by Nakanishi on Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff, like we said at the beginning of the show, but it's announced, but there's no, as of this recording, there is no, like, concept or story to the DLC yet.
We just know there's a mini game coming in May, maybe with a surprise, maybe probably VR mode, and then story whenever. Could be a year from now, could be whatever. I think that the story, it's hard, man.
That's why I was thinking earlier. I was like, what I don't want it to be, or what I want it to be? Because
I don't want it to be more orphanage little girl. I don't want it to be any kind of inkling of banned footage. No. Main story.
Mm-hmm.
Leon and Chris doing something, Leon doing something, Leon and Sherry doing something. The sad part is I don't know how they're going to tie it in with Xeno, and I don't know how they recover from what they set up. As far as, like, there are questions to be answered. I don't know how they do that in a DLC. Like, in a separate wavelength DLC, in a way that makes sense. How do they do it?
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's a good point. Yeah, what do they charge for the DLC? How long it's going to be. I guess that all comes down to that, right? And what the mini game is separate, I guess, if that's just either a free update or whatever. I don't know how they're going to do that. They haven't really gave us details, but I would like a Jill and Chris game, not a Jill and Chris DLC. So if it were me, I'd say leave that for 10 and give me, like, maybe a Leon and a Chris DLC for now. And maybe it explains Chris getting cured, and maybe we get another mention of our other characters, like Claire, Chris included in that, Jill, other people that are maybe affected, that are, affected by the Raccoon City Syndrome and, also need Elpis. It would be interesting to see, like, where Chris was at while that was going down. And I guess, like, in theory, they wouldn't already be fighting the same threats, because wherever they are at that time in that place, that's kind of where they're at. Like, Sherry obviously was off in her command center just chilling, talking to Leon, but she was still infected. It's like, well, where would Jill be? Where would Chris be? And if you played as them in a DLC, it would feel odd for them just to, like, show up in the same areas that, like, Grace and Leon was, and now they're fighting the same. Like, it would just kind of feel like tacked on. So I would want them to at least make it make sense with, like, maybe jumping back, like, a few days and Chris is dealing with this, or because it didn't seem like Chris was in distress, like, when he sends his squad mates in, the Hound Wolf squad. Because it's like, if you were in distress or uncomfortable, you would tell them, like, all right, like, I need to get this. Is there something that they found that, like, could help me? Or, like, there's no reference to him being sick, Chris. So I don't know. It could be a number of things. I just hope that it just serves the story better, because with Shadows of Rose, it served the Village story, closing the Ethan story. And I just hope that this kind of serves this story very well. I hope it does. And we could just move on with 10, maybe move on to more BSAA corruption, and maybe Jill and Chris have to stop that in 10. I personally would like to see that, if it's just Chris and Leon DLC, I'll take that too.
Yeah.
But it's hard to tell at this point, like, what would work, but we could just hope that it covers up some stuff. Now, there's some people that are saying that, should this be a reliant on, for Capcom, like, you have to rely on DLC to tell your story, and a lot of games do this now, and it's been, we don't want to be like the old man yelling at the sky, saying back in my day, all the game, the DLC used to be on the disc, or I could play it then, or I can't play it. Back in my day, there was no DLC on the disc. There's all different eras of people that have played RE5 and the stuff was on the disc, right? And they didn't unlock it until you paid for the gold edition. And back in our day on the PS1, like the game was the game. There was just no DLC, right? So it's become normal for Capcom to do this. Do you think it's just like too easy for them to kind of cut corners and then eventually sell it in a DLC, or what? Do you think it's just kind of part of the course at this point?
I think if this was the PS1 era, whatever they have planned, we just wouldn't have gotten.
It just would have cut it.
And I think people just need to mature up and realize that, like, DLC exists because they have the ability to sell it afterwards. Mm-hmm. That's why it exists.
It keeps the game going.
There's a lot of controversy around it being on the disc, not on the disc, like this, that, this, whatever. Very rarely have I ever seen an example of full packed in DLC being on the disc. Was there files, dummy files, and stuff like that? Sure. They knew they were going to make it. They had the plans, and they were like, okay, well, this is not imperative to the narrative, but this is something that we want to add on to it, so let's put it on the release schedule and put it in there so that when we do download the DLC at a later date, it all goes right in. There's very rarely. There's something, and most of the time when it is on the disc, it gets called out really quickly.
Mm-hmm. I remember Operation Raccoon City had that stuff on the disc.
Yeah.
And then obviously RE5 had the gold edition sitting on the disc. And I remember getting the strategy guide, and I'm looking in the back, it's like versus mode. And I'm like, where the fuck is versus mode?
Yeah.
And I couldn't find it because I didn't have access to play it.
Yep.
And then that came out later, or it came out, I think that was April 2009. So they did versus mode first, and then you had to wait till February and March of 2010 to play, almost a year to play that story. I don't know if we're going to wait that long for this, but it might be a little while. I mean, they said we're now in development, and that can be a year and a half out for Capcom because they got so much shit coming out. Pragmata, Onimusha, however many collection remaster packages they put out for their fighting games for the millionth time. Like, they got a lot of stuff going and coming. And the thing is that Capcom has been the most consistent developer that has delivered really good content. So it's not like they're asking for DLC, and they're a company that has burned us in recent years. They've been pretty damn good as far as like delivering quality products and quality games. So I guess that's why, like, in my head, I'm like, if it's good enough, we're just going to buy it. I mean, we're going to cover RE anyway, so of course we're going to buy it. But it's just like one of those things. Like, not everybody's going to be happy with them, but at least like how they've been running the stuff recently and how they've been running these releases, marketing aside, they're not perfect. Like I said, they make some mistakes with the collector's edition, not sending enough physicals out to stores, which is another problem with RE9 that isn't really being talked about enough, I don't think. But I think that they have good intentions, and they usually make content that's like worth a damn. So at the end of the day, we'll see what happens with the extra content.
So now that we've gone through and have talked about basically everything, not all of it incredibly in depth, but most of it, let's talk review score. However, and it's personal, whatever, my review score is obviously going to be different than yours.
Yeah.
So why don't you go first?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I'm happy that we were able to do this and kind of unpack everything in a conversation so it's more thought out and detailed, because the fast food reviews are cool, but this gave us a chance to like really dive deeper and kind of unpack our thoughts. So for gameplay, obviously, I love all the solid gameplay between Grace and Leon. The Rhodes Chronic Care Center, it's strong old school Resident Evil vibes. Absolutely loved it. Grace had limited weapons, but I like the fact that you had some of those limitations that affected her scenario side. Not scenario, but her sections, I should say, of the game. Leon's section feels like RE4 remake and beyond. Love the variety there, and it felt good. The contrast and balance and the first and third person perspectives were very well done on both sides of the spectrum, even though we liked the third person. The sections feel very punchy. Did not feel like it was really a chore to replay. And I love the variety between the Chronic Care Center and Raccoon City. I thought that stuff was amazing. Good balance with some of the harder difficulties as well. As far as like negatives with the gameplay, it would just come down to, some of the bouncing off of characters in certain moments didn't feel as tight as they should have. Some of the pacing. But I don't necessarily I didn't want separate scenarios. I felt like how they did it was still good. I just don't know if they could pull it off again. Obviously, just nothing but positives to say about the visuals. I love how it ran. I love the dark and gritty side of it. I love how it ran on the base PS5. I love how it ran on the Pro. The Switch 2, obviously, it ran great for being on the Switch 2. There's some PC stuff that needs to be worked out, but Capcom is going to do that. Nothing to really say negative about the visuals. I think this game is gorgeous and all its grit and glory. Nothing really terrible to say about the top hero characters, Leon and Grace. I feel like they progressed their characters enough. There's a little bit more they could have done with Leon, I do agree. But I do think that, between Sherry and between Alyssa and between Emily and all of those characters, it was just great to see them back or new characters alike. And obviously, Victor Gideon being one of my highlights as well, very convincing. And he's entertaining while he's on screen. And his motive makes sense. It really does. And you do kind of, you're with him. I just wish that he had a little bit more on the back end. And Zeno, while I do appreciate his presence, I think the negatives with the characters ultimately comes into Zeno specifically. I think the negatives with how he kind of sidelines Gideon or doesn't really have a fulfilling end or feels a little undercooked, given the fact that he's supposed to be an imitation or this almost like this Wesker-like figure. I feel like that was probably more of the negatives when it comes to the heroes and the villains. But other than that, it was more positives overall than everything else. Enemies and boss fights, I love the zombies. The T-Virus return, the different personalities were killer. The blister heads, terrifying, stronger, faster. Lickers are also very well done. I love the Marie Stalker enemy. I thought that was very well done. And it didn't feel annoying or old and tired. The chunk encounters were cool, even though they were, a little short-lived. Titan Spinner, favorite boss. Absolutely love the Titan Spinner. Plant 43 was also very short, but I still liked it that it was overgrown in the city. And, of course, Mr. X and the Super Tyrant were perfect returns to the RPD. The RPD sections just pretty much almost brought tears to our eyes, basically. I mean, it was incredible. And so the boss fight towards the end felt a little short, a little rushed. So that was specifically with Victor Gideon. I feel like the Nemesis one, I feel like that was a little too short, but I like the first form. And then obviously with the story, my last in positives and negatives story, I love that it was told from Grace and Leon's perspective and we were invested in this. I like Leon's arc. He's tired. 30 years of doing this. Raccoon City syndrome is killing him, and it comes full circle with Raccoon City RPD. We all know once we heard that music kick in that it sent chills down our spines, and I think that is something that we cannot forget. And I know a lot of people might not like the, hey, remember this, remember that, remember this, remember that, but I think there's more layers to that. I loved the RPD section. I love the berry scavenger hunt that they put in there. I love returning to all of our old locations. I thought that was such a cool, like, nostalgic thing, but there was more weight to it. I like seeing everything that was kind of just like frozen and still after the explosion hit the city. It's almost like something that just kind of like got frozen in time, and Leon even says that at one point. So I loved everything that they did with that, and I thought that made great work for Leon to do that in the second half. I like that, Grace obviously has the closure in which she's taking on Emily, and she's taking on, being basically like a mother figure, the mom to this child that is now cured. I also loved Spencer's twist. I did not mind that at all. It was cool to see kind of his end-of-life turnaround kind of change up a little bit once everything kind of hit the fan and he had nothing left. That does make sense, like something that you could see somebody trying to make amends, even though all the damage that they've done cannot be reversed at fucking all. And I think it gave us a really good reason to go back to Raccoon City. And it made a lot of sense. And like I said, just absolutely chills going through Raccoon City and RPD. Fucking loved it. The files were also superb. for context and story bits. They definitely felt like they were thought out and they connected very well. This is probably my favorite mainline story since RE4, RE5. Not even just mainline game, but story. Okay. Negatives for story. Last for the negatives. End feels a bit rushed. Victor's screen time was pretty much reduced, while Xeno was cool. He was killed quickly, and little explanation, obviously pending DLC. And of course, the bad ending was just there for shock value and is completely pointless. So between that and some of the plot holes, those are my positives and negatives per category for Resident Evil 9. And overall, to answer the top of this section here, how I would rank RE, you know, if we're kind of giving this a more number rank kind of thing, I would still sit this at a 9 out of 10. I think this is a solid entry in Resident Evil. I think I am very fulfilled and satisfied with this entry, and I walk away a lot more fulfilled and satisfied than I did with 8 and Village in that whole era. So while I do see some flaws and I do see some things they couldn't fix, you know, there hasn't been a perfect RE in a while, but this has been one of the better mainline games. 9 out of 10.
Okay. I'm definitely not going to get as wordy as you just did, because I have mine written like a synopsis, essentially.
Okay.
But I do parrot a lot of it. I'm just going to go down my list here. For my positives, and I kind of just take the really big positives and the really big negatives. All the little stuff that, like, I wouldn't give it a point or take a point away or whatever, I just didn't include in here. So, fantastic atmosphere and world design. That's visually, not level design. Level design I thought was kind of average. Great atmosphere and world design. Amazing original soundtrack and sound design.
Oh, yeah, the soundtrack was phenomenal. I didn't even talk about that, yeah.
Engaging gameplay design for both Grace and Leon at their peaks. Giving players a choice of perspective is awesome and should always be the focus going forward. Strong lead characters. Grace and Leon were both very likable. And Grace didn't feel like she was overshadowed by Leon. Great voice acting and mocap performances all around. Amazing attention to detail with different cutscenes, costume awareness, and reloading animations. Those are just some examples. There's a lot of really minute details that they really put a lot of love into in this game. And overall, which kind of goes into a lot of what you said, this feels like the greatest hits of Resident Evil. If you've been a fan of the franchise for a long time, it is one big, albeit sometimes it falls a little short, love letter to the longtime fans of the series. So those are my positives. My negatives are actually quite short. Pacing issues that just come with essentially making two entirely different games.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the characters do lack screen time, and while it is good to always leave your audience wanting more, you shouldn't leave your audience wanting an explanation. Insultingly rushed and bad ending variant for the bad ending.
Yes.
It's just, why is it even in there?
Yeah.
It's not because he died. I know that's what people are going to think.
That's what they're going to think, yeah.
And that's fine. You can be wrong, but that's not why I'm saying that. I'm just saying it because it's, like you said, it just feels like the shock value. And it really wasn't that shocking because as soon as we had the inkling there was going to be multiple endings, we knew that was going to happen. That's the obvious thing to do, right? So it's just like, okay, well, how is he going to go out?
And the game literally says, hey, reverse it right now.
Yeah, hey, by the way, sorry we put that in the game. Can you go back?
2 boss fights left.
Yep. And this is the most overall negative for me personally, besides the story. It does feel like the roller coaster description is a little too spot on for Requiem. The game feels like after 1 or 2 playthroughs, you have everything, you have experienced everything the game has to offer you. Replayability is a bit stifled by design. And for a game that has that Resident Evil 4 gameplay style, where I could argue to the cows come home, and I don't own any cows, so it'll be a long argument. Resident Evil 4 is probably both, but especially the original, it's probably the most replayable game of all time.
It's the replay value, and I would actually second this. Another negative that I want to mention is the same thing. I just think the replay value was definitely shot lower on this game. The unlockables are cool. costumes, weapon skins, cool deluxe edition content, the Marvin files that you read about
The deluxe content.
the deluxe content, that was all cool. Also, very sad files, by the way.
Very sad
really
files.
Enjoy them, but why are they in deluxe?
Why are they in deluxe when they're 4 out of one of them is actually blank? I get it's a storytelling piece.
Right next to the shoes, right?
Yeah, near the shoes. Adds a really cool character, a really interesting character. But I think that kind of stuff is better left off of. It feels like they just put it there so you feel like you were getting more.
Yeah.
That's marketing. I get it.
Yeah.
That's not a negative for me. But replayability is a big thing for Resident Evil. I replay these games every year. So with all of that being said, for me, and my ranking system is a little different, I prefer letter grades to numbers. I feel like they give you a range because at any given day, I could fluctuate and be like, oh, this game's more of a 97. Oh, this game's more of a 94. It's too nuanced with the numbers. Like, what is a 93 difference to a 92? Letters give you a range. They give you a range of feeling. And you could same thing like 1 through 6 would give you the same idea. But I feel like numbers quantify it in a way. So my rating system is very simple. I go S, A, B, C, D, F. And for me, a C is an average game. So think you're a run-of-the-mill. I played it once, but I don't feel like I'll ever play it again.
Yeah.
I would give this game, with all of that in consideration, pending DLC, because the DLC does finish the product. You're not going to judge RE5 without Lost in Nightmares and all the extra stuff, that Desperate Escape and all that. Pending DLC, I would give this game a B. So I stick with my initial rating. The only thing I would say is, like, if you held a gun to my head and told me I had to give it a number, after having played it 8 times and really sat and thought about it, I did drop a few points down to an 84. I think this game right now in its current state is an 84 out of 100. That's my B. I could maybe go up to an 87, 88 like I did before. I could maybe drop down to an 81 and 82. But for my review score, anything 80 or above is a B.
Okay.
So I don't go by the American letter grade or the European letter grade or the Japanese letter grade. No.
Yeah.
I go by my own ranking system.
That's fair. I think
so B is good.
Yeah, we both have, like, I guess, different approaches to ranking. And usually I don't even used to do number ranks at all. I still really don't. This is like me kind of breaking my cycle of not doing it, because the whole point of these podcasts is to, like, thoroughly talk about it and then kind of but like a condensed version having numbers and rankings is not wrong for something like this, where you just kind of want to get a beat list and then boom, this is kind of where we would rank it on a number or a letter scale. Yeah,
so I would put it at the mid-range of good. I go S, masterpiece, A, great, B, good, C, average, D, bad, F, terrible. Resident Evil has only released one game in its entire franchise's history that I would give an F. And this is a Resident Evil ranking, by the way, not video games in general. But this is like, I would only give one game an F in the entire history of the series. Most games fall above a C or above. And there's only a few titles in D for me. And this sits right with games like Resident Evil 2 Remake. It sits right there with games like Resident Evil Code Veronica. It sits there with games like Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. For me. So those are other games that I give Bs to. They would fall in that B range. So Requiem's among some pretty great company.
Yeah, and I think we really appreciated coming away from this, and we're still doing stuff during this era. We're still not done, per se. We still got plenty of lore to talk about and videos to produce, but you know, the drive time is at least slowing down a little bit, but I think we can walk away from this era just still feeling a lot more happy and fulfilled than we did at the end of Resident Evil 8. And we hope everybody has enjoyed, you know, the shows, the videos, the releases, the streams, everything, because it's kind of crazy that we're already kind of like here, and 2026 is almost a quarter done at this point. So holy fuck, man. So yeah, it's kind of crazy, but we can't do this without any of you guys. So, you know, we appreciate that.
Yeah, and if the DLC comes out and it's an absolute banger, answers some of our criticisms, I could see this game dipping up into an A easily. Easily a 92, 93, 94 era.
Like area. Be maybe, possible part 2 whenever
could also be a B.
DLC comes out.
There's really nothing. I mean, I've thought of every possibly horrible scenario here. And apart from like Xeno being resurrected and pulling his face off and it's Ethan, I can't see this game falling below a B for me. I think B's right where its minimum is for me. So I don't think it's going to be possible for it to drop. Just clarifying for anybody who's wondering, like, oh, will John drop? I think B or higher is where this game's going to end up. I do think it is now officially closed out of S, though. I don't think it will be a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And for anybody wondering, the masterpiece games are the original 2, the original 4, the original 1, one remake.
We hold the originals all up there.
And 4 remake. Those are my S tier games.
Yeah.
Great is a very small category, actually. But
yeah, I mean,
we won't get into that. We're going to make videos on our full tier lists eventually. So
exactly, yeah, kind of for me the 30th anniversary. But yeah, it's the 30th anniversary month, so hope everybody has enjoyed this podcast and enjoyed listening. Mm-hmm. You can always download Apple, Spotify, Libsyn, all that good stuff, and we hope you guys enjoyed us talking for about 3 hours now.
Yeah.
On the show, because again, this is the point. We wanted to obviously do an initial review, but this has always been our format where we can really dive and take our time and like really.
This is for the big fans who just want to absorb all RE9 possible.
Yeah.
This is for you guys.
And we are always honest and genuine with how we feel, and we're never going to tell you any different than how we feel. So that's for damn sure. So
and if you feel like I'm being a harsh critic, because like you're like, oh, you guys are talking about this game like it's awesome and you love it, and John's giving it a B. Are you kidding me? I am a harsh critic. I believe in harsh criticism because you want to make sure that you're being fair and honest. Most of the games that I love are Bs. Like there's a lot of games in the B section across video game history that some people would say are C's or A's. But for me, a good game is a good game. And they're becoming rarer. So I'm very happy with Requiem. I think Requiem itches a itch. It gets a really good spot that we've been missing for a while.
Absolutely.
It's definitely my favorite game since 4 original. I believe that every other game, yes, it is, and it is currently sitting at my 8th favorite. But one thing that you might not expect that I want to throw in here, because it does show Requiem some love, it did squeeze into my top 5 favorite soundtracks. I think it's among the top 5.
Soundtrack is phenomenal.
It's really good, and I really like the lyrical
top 5.
Song.
Okay,
top 5.
That's high.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lyrical song, the remix songs, the soundtrack of this game blew me away. I was not expecting it to actually like get me as into it, because again, it's really been since probably like RE4, RE5 that I've been into a mainline soundtrack.
It's funny that you say that, because this edges 4 out for me.
Really?
It's literally, I don't know the exact order after 2.
Okay.
But my exact soundtrack order is 2, 1, 3, Code Veronica, 9.
Okay.
Requiem.
Damn.
That's like my 5. Like, those are the ones that are like...
And those remix tracks, man, are just so well done.
And when I say Resident Evil 1, I mean remake and 1 together. Like the original soundtrack and including the remastered soundtrack for the remakes. That's what I mean. I don't mean like remakes not included. It's the same fucking songs.
Yeah.
They're just remastered. That's all.
Yeah, the remix songs on RE9 that harken back to the original songs are just great. And it made that RPD section very emotional, I think, for every RE player, feeling that sense of nostalgia. And, we can't... it's all in our first playthrough, so you definitely watch that, because you could see our real-time reaction to everything and how...
Even while we're tired.
Because at that point, we were... By the time we got to the RPD, me and John were like, we're fucking doing this. We are finishing this fucking thing. but we were still taking our time and taking it all in, and I'm happy that we experienced it the way that we did. And we're probably not going to do it any other way the next few releases of Resident Evil, as far as like doing our first playthrough offline no matter what, because especially when it's a mainline game and it's not a remake, when we really want to take in the story. Because I'll tell you this right now, if something got spoiled for me, which it didn't, thank God, I stayed offline for 3 weeks. I didn't even reply to birthday messages on Facebook. I was off, and it would have affected me. So I'm happy that I was able to just get into it the way I did. Seeing the trailer, so I saw a decent amount. But I'm just happy that we did what we did, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm proud of us.
Unfortunately, I got spoiled.
Post predictions podcast or pre predictions podcast?
Literally as we were turning the game on. I unfortunately got spoiled by the
one thing, I guess. Right?
What do you even call it? It wasn't
list.
Really an embargo. It was an embargo list. It wasn't really like an NDA.
You can't talk about.
Yeah. It was an embargo restriction, really, because we didn't sign it, so it's not an NDA.
Right.
It's not an agreement.
No, it
right?
isn't. No.
So it's like an embargo list, and they had like bullet points of what we weren't allowed to talk about ahead of time before like a certain day. And they just slapped them in. Hunk-like figure. This
got spoiled.
I saw like 3 or 4 things, and I was like, Anthony, don't look at that screen. And Anthony's like... So I unfortunately got spoiled the second before we were turning the game on. Other than that, I knew some very minor things. I had early confirmation that it was Sherry, but we pretty much called that right from the rip.
Yeah, it sounded like
so
that.
It's not like I got spoiled on anything crazy. People were typing in the comments that like when I was asking you all those questions on the last show, the prediction show, that I like had inside information, not realizing that I wrote those bullet points like before leaks even started coming out. Like that was just we're going back to Raccoon City.
They thought we had the game already, which was not
no.
the case.
We didn't.
If we had the game that early, you guys would have already seen all the videos that we are now making because the game is out. We didn't have that time with the game. We're not that included in
people are like
these groups.
Think like higher brain power, like John knew or John.
We made some wild predictions that have been true in the past,
and we've made wild predictions that were fake or like or untrue.
Like wrong. Like,
we've played so much Resident Evil in our lifetime. I think people we live and breathe this. This is our job right now, right? Like this is what we do. This is what we talk about all the time. We make conversation. Somebody will say something, and then we'll finish the sentence they started with a Resident Evil quote, like we did on the walkie-talkies at Best Buy. We are so ingrained in this. Sometimes you just know, or sometimes you feel it, and you're like, this is totally something they would do,
right?
Because you study the nuances and you understand the nuances, and then sometimes they surprise you.
That's true,
and both are fine. We thought Wesker was going to be in the game, and he kind of is, but he's not. It's not him. So we were wrong about that, but we were kind of right about it because like here's Xeno. Who the hell is this? We said the Hound Wolf squad was going to be in the game, and then the elite soldiers are coming in.
Yeah.
And what really was crazy about that is that the elite soldiers, we thought they were the Hound Wolf squad, but that cutscene from the trailer was the elite soldiers coming in. But they look like Hound Wolf squad in the trailer. But then they didn't in the...
Yeah.
And then they came in anyway. So it was like we had predictions and some of them came true by accident. To make that beat list for Anthony, how would you feel if blank, 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 the predictions? I literally just said, what would be the craziest Raccoon City comeback ever? And I just wrote a list. I wrote the list in like 5 minutes. Sherry. Oh, Sherry. Birkin. Oh, Birkin. Tyrant. Nemesis. It was literally that simple. It was that simple.
Yeah. Well, they'll never... Some people won't believe it.
No, they won't believe it, and that's fine. They don't have a channel.
Yeah. Yep. Where's your video?
They don't...
Where's your playthrough?
Where's your playthrough?
I suck at the game. Where the fuck's your playthrough, cocksucker?
Yeah, people saying that you suck at the game is funny.
Yeah. Don't worry. I'll show them on stream.
They're so judge.
Don't worry. I'll show you guys.
Can't wait to knife only the game.
Completing the game and doing speed runs soon. Don't worry. You'll see me. But yeah, I'm just happy with everything. I'm happy with how he pulled everything off despite everything against us. You guys have no fucking idea the bullshit that has gone on the past few months in and outside of the channel. So just want to say thank you.
Thank you for all your support.
Yeah, and we're not done. So this isn't it. We're not taking a break from videos. RE9 is still fresh in our brains, and we got a lot to say. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Hit that like button. Subscribe. LTRE.store down below is a real store shop from Teespring. Okay?
Why it's getting flagged, we don't know.
It's getting flagged on some iPhones, but I will just say this. Quentin Bauer did amazing Requiem shirts and hoodies. You have to check them out. Different color variants.
My mom's already wearing one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to be the shameless plug of the mom, but she's got the blue and green hoodie.
Right.
And it is soft as hell.
Yeah.
And she loves it.
That's awesome. It looked great. And yeah, I'm just happy to take in the rest of this year with some more RE9 stuff and more content. So thank you guys for watching, listening. That's our review of RE9 until DLC. And that's about it.